Kafuuma, he's from Massachusetts. Twina Mwame Moses Senkumuge from the UK. Ne Ambassador Semuddu, who's going to give us the Islamic perspective, their mental health and how to deal with it from a religious perspective. As usual, tugenda kubeeramu ne Sheikh Ashraf, Sister Aisha from Ali Sudan, Sister Naima Hajatibu Kenya, Sheikh Zaidi ne Usama. Tubeebazizza okutujoyininga leero. Abafiiriddwa tusaba Allah abakumye. Chairperson waffe Sister Rahma naye yafiiriddwa taliiko leero, nabo tubateeke mu dduwa. N'abafidde bonna tusaba Allah abasaasire, abasonyiwe abasobako, abagaziyize kabbuli zaabwe. Okay, badde ngenda kuswa akazindaalo. Sister Shukuru, otuwe 5-minute opening dua. Sister Shukuru, Sheikh Ashraf. Sister Shukuru kwali? Tumuwa akazindaalo.
Yep.
Sister Shukuru?
Shukru kwali.
Sister Shukuru, you can have the opening dua, please.
Okay, shukran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. Alhamdulillah, M.Ed. Praise the Almighty Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, most gracious, most merciful. There's no one worthy of worship except Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. I'm going to give a very simple translation of Surah Al-Duha. And I basically chose this surah because it's basically talking about depression. It was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he was facing a very trying moment. He was so depressed, was feeling so down. And Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala showed him or revealed this surah to our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, وَالضُّحَى أَقْسَمَ اللَّهُ بِالْوَقْتِ الضُّحَى. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala swears with time of duha, morning brightness. And we know that waqt duha is basically 9, 10, 11. That is the time of duha. And Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala swears with it. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And by the night when it's covered with darkness. Allah swears with the morning brightness. At the same time, he also swears with the morning, swears with the night when it's covered with darkness. مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَالَ. And Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is telling Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that your Lord has not left you. Your Lord is not going to leave you. He has not left you in any way. And he has not detested you. So because Prophet Muhammad was so down, he was feeling so depressed, Allah told him that he has not left you in any way. So Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, feel happy about it. Feel good. Do not feel so down about that. Allah continues and says, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى. And the hereafter is better for you compared to the life now, compared to the past life. So the hereafter, the life after this dunya, that is akhirah, we are fighting for Jannah, is far better than this life now. Because Prophet Muhammad was going through a lot of trying moments, Allah basically was telling him the hereafter is more beautiful. Just be patient, Ya Muhammad. The beautiful life is awaiting for you. And to all of us who are patient in this dunya, the beauty and the hereafter is awaiting for all of us, inshallah. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. Allah is basically telling Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and he is going to give you. What is he going to give you? Na'imas, and you will be satisfied. Because going through a hard moment, Allah is going to give you more beautiful things, and you will be satisfied. We're going through a trying moment, Allah is going to give us Jannah. Allah is going to reward us for every good that we do. And meet the challenge we're facing right now, we should know that Allah Ta'ala will reward us in the hereafter, inshallah. Allah continues and says, Alam yajidika yatiman fa'awa. Didn't I find you an orphan, O Muhammad, and I gave you refuge from it? So it's a question. Didn't I get you an orphan, but I gave you life after. I gave you, you became better after that. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى. And we found you lost, and we guided you. Allah Ta'ala found Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, lost, and he guided him to the right path. Al-Nur al-Islam. From the time of the Quraysh, they were not worshiping Allah, they were in the Jahiliyyah period, Allah removed him from that moment and made him exactly who he is. He made him the prophet of the Ummah. He made him a role model. He made him one with the best characters that we all admire. So Allah Ta'ala basically saying, we found you lost, but we guided you to the right path. So no matter the situation it is, we should always depend on Allah. We should always know that tomorrow Allah has better plans for us. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. And for any orphan, do not oppress him. For any orphan that is going through a hard time, do not shout at him. Do not call bad about him. Bring him close to you, talk to him, give him food if you can. And if Allah has given you more ni'mah of wealth, just adopt that orphan and stay with that orphan. And Allah Ta'ala will be pleased with you, and you'll get the best rewards. And the reward that we are working for all here is Jannah of Allah Ta'ala. وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. And for any questionnaire, any person who would come to you and ask you a question, do not repel against him. Someone would come and want to interact with you, or someone would come and has something to ask you. Do not repel against him. Listen to that person with the best hikmah. And this is what Allah Ta'ala calls all of us to have the best character amongst ourselves. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. And for the favors of Allah, talk about that. The favors, the ni'mas of Allah Ta'ala, talk about that. The oxygen, the food, even the meeting we're having right now, it's ni'mah from Allah Ta'ala. Talk about it. Praise him about it. So this surah basically was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he was having depression. He was feeling so down, and Allah talked to him. Allah told him that it doesn't matter what you're going through, Muhammad, but the hereafter is better for you, and we shall guide you to the right path, and we shall give you big rewards that we all want as Muslims. So basically, it took Prophet Muhammad 6 months without getting any revelation from Allah, without even seeing Angel Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam, without even seeing any verse of Allah. So he felt down. And this comes to all of us, that no matter the situation you're going through, no matter the mental problem we are going through, or we have it in the family, we should always come back to Allah, and we should always have hopes that tomorrow will be better for us all. Thank you so much. I think my 5 minutes is just getting done. May Allah accept from all of us. Jazakumullahu khair. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Sister Shukr. You did well with time. MashaAllah, may Allah reward you for sharing all that knowledge. Now I'd like to invite Brother Kafuuma, Brother Jude Kafuuma. The floor is yours, Semu.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters.
Alaikum assalam. Doing well with that salam.
Yes, my young ones sometimes wake up every day and they say Salaam alaikum. I ask them, do you know what that means?
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to this very important topic and meeting with the people from across the globe. I hope everyone can hear me well and you see me.
We can see you now. I'll say you can mix Ruzungu and Uganda. Most people prefer Uganda, but whichever you're comfortable in. And I say mostly Uganda.
Oh, okay. And is someone admitting the people I see here requesting to enter the room?
Yes, yeah. You're just getting that because you're a co-host, but we're admitting.
Very good. Kakati tugenda kwogera ku ndwadde z'omutwe, mental health. Bwe baali bansaba okutegeka omusomo guno, bansaba kutegeka ku endwadde z'omutwe kye ki, ate kiki ekizireeta. Bansaba kwogera ku mental health and the causes. Kati mental health bwe bulamu bw'omutwe. Naye obulamu bw'omutwe bwe bufunamu obulwadde ebeera mental illness. Kati awo tuba tulina obuntu aba alina mental illness eyeetaaga okujjanjabibwa. So I'm going to talk about the basics on mental illness, and I'll talk about the factors that lead to mental illness. I'll also talk about the myths and facts and the types of mental illnesses we may not be aware of. I'm also going to talk about what can you and I do to solve this puzzle, this problem of mental illness. Now, I have my brother who is in the UK, Mosa Senkubuge. I know he's online. Mr. Senkubuge is going to talk about the signs and treatment. I'm aware of a lot of signs and treatments for mental health. This is an entire course in school. It's a big book, call it an encyclopedia. But because of the need in our communities everywhere in the world, especially today, we need to talk about some of the basic mental illnesses that people are struggling with and some of the solutions we have for them. So mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and the social well-being. To say it in Luganda, kugamba endwadde z'omutwe zino bw'oba ozoogerako oba oyogera ku ebyo ebiruma omuntu ku mutima, ku ebyo ebikaluubiriza obulamu bw'omuntu ne bimugaana okubeera nti atabagana bulungi ne banne, social well-being. Now, this affects us in the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act. When someone has a mental health, a mental illness, this is 100% going to affect the way you think about others or even about yourself. It's going to affect the way you feel about yourself and about others. It's going to affect the way you act about yourself and even about others around you. So this is how terrible mental illnesses are. So understanding mental illnesses helps us to determine how can we handle the stressors, the triggers of these mental illnesses, and how can we relate to others who may be having these challenges. What choices can we make that may otherwise be difficult depending on the person who is affected by this particular mental illness. Okukiza mu Luganda, manyi nti tuli mu bitundu bya njawulo ebyensi, manyi abamu tebategeera Luganda ate abamu tebategeera bulungi Luzungu. Naye kwegamba okukiza obulungi mu Luganda nti omuntu bw'aba alina endwadde y'omutwe emutawaanya, engeri gy'alowoozaamu ku ye ng'omuntu ate ne ku balala eyawukana ku muntu atalina ndwadde za mutwe. Engeri gy'akolamu emirimu eyawukana ku muntu omulala atalina ndwadde za mitwe. Engeri gy'alowoolerezaamu ku bantu abalala eyawukana ate ku bantu abalala abatalina bulwadde buno. Awo nno engeri gye tutabaganamu ne bannaffe ate n'engeri gye tulondamu ebyo bye tulina okukola eri abantu abalina obulwadde buno ebeera njawufu naddala nga omuntu abadde tomutegeera bulungi mu mbeera eya bulijjo bagamba gundi oyo tategeerekeka bulungi gundi oyo simutegeera bulungi ennaku zino oba kiki ekigenda mu maaso takwatagana bulungi na gundi oli kati oluusi ekyo ekyobutakwatagana bulungi yandibadde bagite lack of social skills oba ng'alinamu ka personality disorder bwe twankiyise bwe tutyo ebeera ndwadde ya mutwe eddagala weeriri omuntu oyo aba asobola okujjanjabibwa. Now, what are some of the factors that contribute to mental illnesses? Most of the factors are biological. Biological factors, we talk about genealogy, genes, or brain chemistry. We talk about factors that are social and life experiences. The person's involvement in other factors of life determine a lot about their mental illnesses. For example, if someone has a history of trauma or abuse, domestic or child abuse, or trauma history, this determines a lot on a person's mental illness. There is also family history of mental illness problems, especially if someone comes from a family or where the dad or mom has a mental illness, for example, schizophrenia or hallucinations, delusions, oluusi okulowolereza ebintu ebitaliiwo nga kyali ku taata oba ku maama. Ebintu ebyo oluusi bibbulukukira mu baana. Omwana n'abeera nga naye ali schizophrenic. There are some psychological disorders that develop with time as we grow. Some of these are caused by biological factors, again, as we grow. If someone has a biological medical problem, this may lead to another mental illness. Oluusi twawuliranga edda nga bagamba nti weegendereze nnyo omwami ng'atuuse emyaka awo 4 agenda mu 5 oba omukyala atuuse emyaka awo 4 agenda mu 5 batera okuba nga baagala okwagala okweyisanga bwe bandyagadde babeere nga baali beeyisanga bali myaka 18 2 kyokka nga ate tebakyasobola kuddayo ng'emyaka gibakaddiyeeko. Kati oluusi eyo ebeera mental illness eyetaaga okutereezebwa. All of these mental illnesses have warning signs, and Mr. Semuddu is going to talk about these warning signs. But what are some of the myths and facts on mental illness? I will start with those in the Muslim world. In the Muslim community, we have some mental taboos. Mental health as a taboo subject in the Muslim community, which leads to embarrassment and fear for the members of the community who have mental illnesses. Edda abamu bwe twali tukula ndowooza mujjukira Uganda eyo nti omwana bwe yabanga ng'alina obulemu ku mutwe, abaana abamu wabalabanga nga kwegamba oli bw'aba agenda okukyala ewa mukwano gwe n'amutwala mu mmotoka, omwana oyo oluusi nga bamuleka mu mmotoka mwalabanga abaana obanga abakanenuka endusu. Abaana abo abamu babanga balina obulwadde obwa Down syndrome oba abamu nga bali autistic, kati nga abakadde abazadde tebaagala kulaga bannaabwe nti balina omwana alina obulemu ku mutwe, so ng'omwana oyo oluusi yabanga yeetaaga obujjanjabi oba okulaba therapist oba clinician ayambe ku famire eyo okusobola okulabira obulungi omwana oyo. Kati mu mbeera zaffe nga Abayisiraamu gye tubeera, abamu gye twakulira nti obulwadde obw'omutwe oli akirabanga tabu nti tokyogerako abantu bajja tusekerera kwegamba ate omuntu alina obulwadde obwo n'atayambibwa. This is a very serious issue that needs to be addressed in our communities so that those suffering can get the help that they need. Some of the other issues may be misconception in the Muslim communities that mental health is associated with being non-religious or not religious enough. Nti omuntu oyo alabika tasoma bulungi, alabika tasaala, alabika tagenda mu ddwa, alabika tagenda mu muzikiti. Lwaki ebizibu byonna biri ku ye? So nga ate bambi omuntu ono ebintu ebimu biri biological, ebintu ebimu bisinzira ku mbeera z'ayiseemu oba yasomera mu ssomero nga lyali Kangamenge waffe Uganda mu Northern Uganda nga waliyo olutalo, amasasi nga gavuga enkya n'eggulu, gamanga abaana babakyusa mu dormitories. Kati ekyo ne kireetera omwana trauma. Kati bw'akula n'atandika okujjukira ebintu ebyo ate nga teyayambibwa kutereezebwa mu budde buli, ebintu ebyo bikaluubiriza embeera gy'abeeramu n'abantu abalala. These are some of the misconceptions. Again, some Muslims believe that today's mental health issues are tests from Allah and therefore are not addressed. Nti oyo alina kye yakola ekikyamu, Allah kyava mubonereza. Kugamba ne mumuleka n'atayambibwa. Another one is a non-Muslim mental health professional who is going to impose their beliefs on you. Nti oyo si Muyisiraamu, kati byagenda okwogera si bya Kiyisiraamu, alina okuba nga Allah yamufuuyirirako. Kati eyo nayo ebeera misconception. Kati ebyo bye biringa ebiri ku Buyisiraamu. Kati okudda ku mbeera ezaffe eza bulijjo, mulimu ebintu bye tulowooza ku ndwadde ez'omutwe kyokka ng'ate si bituufu. Ekyokulabirako nti omuntu ayinza okugamba nti nze ekyo sikirina, ne boogera ku kulowolereza ebintu ebitaliiwo oba okuwulira amaloboozi agataliiyo oba okuwulira eddoboozi nga limugamba kola ekintu kino nga teririiyo, oli n'agamba nti Katonda yaŋŋambye nkole ekintu kino, so nga ate kikyamu, ng'eyo ndwadde ya mutwe. So mental health problems, if someone says they don't affect me, those are some of the myths. The fact is, mental health problems are actually very common in the world today, and they affect almost everyone. Children don't experience mental health problems. That may be another myth. Actually, even very young children may show early warning signs of mental health concerns. For example, neurological disorders that need to be evaluated and given medical attention. Another myth is prevention doesn't work. Treatment doesn't work. It is impossible to prevent mental illnesses. Nti oyo waba yatabuka omutwe, wabanga mulwadde wa mutwe, temutawaana, teri ddagala. Mugende mumusabire busabizi, mulinde kaseera ke. Eddagala gye liri lingi eri abantu abalina obulemu ku mitwe. Some of the prevention measures may be higher than the person understands. So all we need is to give this addressed by professionals who understand mental illnesses. Now, what are some of the types of these mental illnesses? There are so many types of mental illnesses, but I'll talk about some of the basic ones that affect us every day. Right from the young children, we have learning difficulties, autism, ADHD, ODD. Learning difficulty, mu Luganda nandi kiyise abaana abalina obuzibu mu kuyiga. Kugambanga ebintu tabikwata bulungi, talina magezi gamala. Autism yendwadde y'obutategeera bya buntu. Omwana oyo nga tategeera bulungi bya buntu, eddagala eryo nayo gye liri. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Oluusi mukiwulira nga bakiyita ADHD. Omwana alina ADHD aba ayitiriza obutatereera wamu, ye attention deficit hyperactive, oba oluusi bayinza okugamba nti ADHD with the hyperactive on the extreme, oba ADHD with attention on the hyperactive. Kwegamba omwana oyo nga ye tasobola kubeeraawo nga atunulira omusomesa nga asomesa okumala eddakiika 3. Buli kaseera abaako akantu akamutawaanya. Those are young people, children who have focus problems, attention problems. Others may have it on the hyperactive side. Ng'omwana oyo atawaanyizibwa nnyo buli kaseera aba tatereera mu kifo, ava wano akola kiri, ogenda kwekanga homework tamukoze. ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. ODD bwe butengu obuyitiridde. Omwana nga atengwa buli kaseera ekintu ky'omugamba takikola. Obutengu obuyitiridde oluusi bubeera bulwadde bwa mutwe. Omwana oyo nga yeetaaga okulaba omusawo. Antisocial behavior. Kwegamba omwana alina effujjo. Omwana oyo nga bw'atuuka mu budde bwa break time ku ssomero tasobola kuzannya bulungi na banne. Ebintu ebibeera bya ffujjo buli kaseera. Depression, major depression. Depression y'ennyiike. Ennyiike bw'eyitira ku mutima gw'omuntu efuuka major depression. Ennyiike eyitiridde. Ebireeta ennyiike bintu bingi nnyo. Oluusi ebintu bye tuyitamu, ebitutawaanya, okufiirwa abantu mu mbeera kati ze tulimu, COVID ayitiridde. Kyokka ate n'obulwadde obulala butta abantu, siriimu, sukaali, abafa ekibwatukira, obulwadde bw'omutima, obanga oli pressure zimukubye n'atafuna bujjanjabi busoboka bulungi, n'afa oluusi nga bamutwala butwazi mu ddwaliro. Ebintu ebyo bireeta ennyiike ku mitima gy'abantu. Kati oli bw'aba tafunye kuddaabirizibwa bulungi, yeebeera ennyiike eyitiridde, ne kigenda mu major depression. Anxiety. Kati anxiety and depression are connected. In most cases, people who go through depression and major depression to the extent of becoming suicidal, they begin with the anxiety disorders. Anxiety y'endwadde ey'okutya ekisusse. Anxieties start with the young people. They are across the board, even adults, even seniors. Seniors may have the fear of how am I going to be supported in my retirement, in my old age, when all my children are all over the world. Who is going to support me, even without life or health insurance in my country, for example, Uganda? Now, this anxiety eventually becomes a depression. N'abeera n'ennyiike. Kati ennyiike eno bw'ebanga tejjanjabiddwa efuuka ennyiike eyitiridde, major depression. And when someone goes into this major depression, this is when they need immediate attention before it goes into an SI, which is a suicidal ideation. Suicidal ideation kwegamba kwe kulowooza ku kwetta oba okuggyawo obulamu bw'omuntu. Oyo yennyini nga omuntu yeeyesse, a suicidal ideation. Kati omuntu bw'aba tumulabye nti alina obuzibu buno, alabika alina ebigendererwa by'okuggyawo obulamu bwe, be bantu oluusi b'owulira nti bannaye ekitalo gundi bamusanze afudde mu nnyumba oba ng'abeera yekka. Oluusi okutya kuno okuyitiridde okugenda mu nnyiike, nga mu muntu bw'atuuka mu nnyiike eyitiridde n'alaba nga talina kuyambibwa, takyalina kimugasa, kwe kuggwaamu essuubi. Omuntu yenna bw'aggwaamu essuubi ekiddako muba mukimanyi aba agenda kwejjawo obulamu abamu avuga mmotoka n'agikuba mu lukonko oba n'atomera ebitulaka ebinene abamu amira ddagala abamu kunywa mwenge oguyitiridde gwatanywanga nako kwegamba nga obulamu bugaanye okwetta okugezaako okwetta ye attempted suicide. We also have panic disorders obulwadde obw'okugugumuka. Oyinza okuba osula n'omuntu oba omwana mu nnyumba agamba nawulidde omwana ng'agugumuka ekiro sategedde kyabaddewo ndowooza yabadde aloota ne kibeerawo mulundi gumu 2 3 enfunda eziyitiridde mugamba ye bw'atyo atera okugugumuka ekiro ndowooza alina ebimukanga ndowooza lwakuba bino byasoma mu mawulire oba byalaba ku mikutu gy'amawulire egy'enjawulo. Okugugumuka okwo bubeera bulwadde, panic disorders. Waliyo obulwadde bwe bayita obsessive compulsive disorder oba OCD, okusindibwa ekirowoozo ekiteewalika oba okubeera nti gwe buli kamu oyagala okakole nga bw'okaagala bwe kandibadde. Omuntu abeera mu mbeera eyo ojja kulaba ng'oluusi ekintu kyakola okutuuka ku mbeera eyo aba anaaba nnyo mu ngalo buli kaseera oba aba agenda nnyo mu ttooyi oba aba atereerereza nnyo obutambaala ku ntebe, oluusi ebeera ndwadde ya OCD. Schizophrenia, eddalu. Delusions, okulowooza n'okukkiriza mu bintu ebitaliiwo. Paranoid delusions, okulowooza nti bakuyigganya. Hallucinations, okuwulira ebitaliiwo. Now, all these are types of mental health problems, and they have treatment. They have warning signs that Mr. Senkubuge is going to talk about. Now, what can we do to make sure that we avert all these mental illnesses? Manyi nti obudde budduse naye muwangu ennyo kampite mu kino kubanga ate ekyo kikulu nnyo nti gwe nange eki kye tusobola okukola okubeera nti
mwami Kafuuma.
Okay, nayanza nnyo nyabo. What can we do as a solution? I know Mr. Senkubuge is going to talk about treatments, but allow me to talk about things you and I can do. You can surround yourself with friends who love you, who understand you, but also respect you, or you respect them for their needs and their private time. Every time you have a friend who understands you, or you understand them, you have that extra mile to share some intimacy. Now, this friend is going to talk to you about some of their fears. And every time they talk to you about their fears, they are confiding in you that you can help them. Maybe you can lead them to a mental health professional who can address their problems. You can volunteer to do something specific for your community. For example, you can volunteer to do grocery shopping for someone who is ill. You can volunteer to do laundry, especially for people who are in the diaspora. Oyinza okuba oli mu Bungereza, nalabika abamu bali Austria, nalabika bali mu Sweden, abali mu America, naye ng'omanyi nti ono mukwano gwange abeera yekka mu nnyumba. Naddala nga mukulu mu myaka, asusse emyaka 6 oba 7. Omuntu oyo aba yeetaaga nnyo okuyambibwa. Ky'osobola okukola okubeera nti embeera gy'alimu, embeera ensi gy'erimu kati badde mu lockdown mu nsi zino, ate kibi nnyo okubeera mu lockdown wano mu America okuva mu March okutuuka nga mwezi gwa June, July. Obeera mu nnyumba wiiki emu ng'oli wekka, tolina gw'oyogerako naye, buli akamere gw'okeefumbira, gw'okeeriira, gw'oweekolera buli kimu. Ebintu ebyo bituusa omuntu ku nnyiike. Ennyiike eyo bw'eyitirira evaamu ekintu ekibi ennyo. Ku America wano tufiiriddwa abantu bangi. Bagamba nti COVID asse abantu bangi mu America. naye ate n'abantu abesse olw'embeera ereeteddwa COVID bangi nnyo. So we can always volunteer to do something for some people to help them. You can volunteer to help someone to take their kids to school or pick them up if they trust you, if you know them well. You can listen to your friend talk about the loss and their feelings towards that loss. Osobola okuwuliriza mukwano gwo ng'ayogera ku ebyo ebintu ebimuvuddeko oba ku bantu abamuvuddeko ku maaso. Naddala mu mbeera eno gye tulimu nti omuntu tasobola na kugenda kuziika munne, tasobola kugenda kuziika muganda oba mukwano gwe oba muzadde we. Ebintu ebyo bireeta anxiety, nevaamu depression, negenda ku major depression, oluusi ne bituuka ne ku suicidal ideation. Okwewala embeera eyo mu bulamu bwaffe obwa bulijjo naddala nga mu communities zaffe, osobola okuyamba omuntu oyo musiraamu muno n'ogamba nti gundi jangu tugende ku muzikiti tusaale, oba leero njagala kusaalako naawe. N'omukubira akasimu n'omugamba obeera wa nti mbeera Leeds nti ngenda kujja tusaaleko naawe tofaayo, nja kwesuula ebbanga erigereddwa tusaaleko ffembi. Ne musoma mwembi essaala eyo, oba oyongedde obulamu bungi nnyo ku mbeera ya munno oyo. Also helping track of condolence messages, phone calls, visitors. Kwegamba omuntu ng'amaze okufiirwa, waliwo ennaku ezikulembera nga 40 ezisooka nga tebannafiirwa, omuntu nga ali mu ddwaliro muyi nnyo, ennaku ezo ziba nzibu. Kati ate bw'amala okufa ne bamuziika, kumpi emwezi mulambo abamu myezi 3 gye bayitamu okusobola okuddaabirizibwa obulungi okudda engulu. Mu budde obwo omuntu aba yeetaaga okufiibwako. Bw'aba abeera yekka, muyambe ogende omubeesebeese, mukubire ekkasimu omubuuze nti banaye gundi yakuweza obubaka obukubagiza, waliwo obubaka obukubagiza obwayise wano abaŋŋambye mbukusomere. Gamba omuntu oyo aba awulira okufiibwako, n'omuyamba okusobola okwewala endwadde z'omutwe eziva mu kuviibwako ekintu oba takyalina mulimu oba mu kufiirwako munne. Also give special attention to other members of the family who may also be grieving or who may be struggling in one way or another. Again, if I take this back to our homeland in Uganda, how many people are struggling back home? The person may not be struggling with the loss of a loved one, but they may be struggling with the loss of the job. They may
Mr. Jude, please, can you unmute yourself? Mr. Jude Kafuuma. And we are unmuting essebo tetukuwulira.
Someone's behaviors, unemployment, losing jobs, and homelessness, among others. Kati mu bimpimpi obwo bye bimu ku bye njagadde okugabanako nammwe ku ndwadde ez'omutwe. So those are some of the basic information we need to know about mental illnesses. I've talked about the factors that lead to mental illnesses, some of the myths we may have and the facts, some of the types of mental illnesses, and what we all can do. But to wrap it up around is to encourage you, if someone is struggling in any way, always check on your folks. Give them a call. You can drive by. If you don't see their car, or if you see their car parked for many days and they have snow on the rooftop, you know someone has not shoveled their car out of the snow for a week, give them a call. If they don't pick up, go at the door and knock. It doesn't hurt to check on your friend. Ne bw'abeera Uganda omuntu oyo nga omaze ebbanga nga tomulaba tomuwuliza. N'olinnya taxi oba n'ovuga emmotoka n'otuuka ewe ng'emmotoka ye weeri mu luggya naye nga wasibe okonkona n'olaba oba omuntu oyo osobola okumuwulira. Ebintu ebyo bikulu nnyo bye bizza obooluganda. Oyo ye muzzaŋŋanda mu bulamu bwaffe ebisobola okuyamba okujjanjaba endwadde ezandituviiriddeko embeera ezitali zimu. Nsuubira nti njogedde ku bintu bino mu bumpimpi naye mwami Ssenkubuge agenda kujja ayogere ku biki bye tusobola okukola okwewala endwadde zino oba treatment. Ate agenda kwogera ne ku bubonero ki bwe tusobola okulabirako. Nabadde njogerako ne mwami Ssenkubuge mmanyi kwoli n'aŋŋamba nti yabadde akaluubirizibwa okuvvuunula endwadde zino ezimu mu Luganda. Awo nno nsobodde okwanguyizaako ku mulimu ogwo. Z'onooba tosobodde kufuna bulungi mu Luganda nsobola okuzoogerako. Nga bwe nzizaayo akazindaalo ew'omutegesi, nina ekitabo kye ŋŋenda okubalaga. Singa osobola okufuna ekitabo kino, kigule obeere nga osobola okusoma ku ndwadde ezitali zimu ezituviirako obulemu bw'endwadde z'emitwe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brother Kafuuma. Oops, my camera. Tukwebaziza nnyo Mwami Kafuuma for that very good presentation. I have a question. What is the suicide hotline in the USA? Kubanga sometimes abantu basobola okufuna problem naye nga tebalina gwe basobola kwogera naye. What is the suicide hotline wano mu USA abantu gye basobola okukozesa? Mwami Kafuuma avuddeko.
Neyanziza nnyo nnyabo, nsonyiwa mbadde nvuddewo. Kakati ngenda kuwa ennamba eyo naye njagadde okusooka okubalaga obutabo buno busatu kubanga bukulu nnyo. If you get a chance to land on these books, please have them in your home library. The first book is How to Protect Your Children from Child Abuse, a Parent's Guide. How to Protect Your Children from Child Abuse, a Parent's Guide. This is from the Boy Scouts of America. This book is available on Amazon.
Okay. Kateekawo bulungi tetukalaba bulungi. Oops, kabuze. Tekali clear kabulidde mu screen ya mu background yo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just a second, let me do this. Okay, so this is the book.
Better. Okay.
You can see that title?
Yeah. Yes, I believe we can.
So this book is from the Boy Scouts of America. It gives a lot of information, especially about young people and how to help young people. You can get it from the website scouting.org, www.scouting.org. You can also get it on the Amazon. This is for the Boy Scouts of America. Okay, another very important book. I know in our culture this was a taboo. Naye okutegeera obulungi ku muntu obubonero bw'osobola okulabirako nti omuntu ono alabika ayagala kuggyawo obulamu bwe. Understanding suicide is very important. This is a national and now a global epidemic. This book here. Again, you can also get this book on the Amazon. Understanding Suicide. Okay. And now there is another book. Kino kiri mu Luganda. Kakati nawe mugenda kunkwata. Kubanga kino sikirabayo ku Amazon naye nja kugamba eyakiwandiika akiteekeyo kubanga is a medical doctor here. Bibino ebyama bya walumbe kyawandiikibwa Dr. Joseph Lubega. Dr. Joseph Lubega namuyisa abeereko ku musomo guno simanyi oba kwali abamusinze mbadde mbayingiza naye bibino ebyama bya walumbe kyawandiikibwa Dr. Joseph Lubega akolera wano mu America naye nga kitabo kya Luganda. Endwadde zonna z'olowoozaako mu Luganda oba mu Luzungu mweziri mu kitabo kino naye nga kiri mu Luganda. Kati kino yandibadde Bible yammwe mwenna okubeera nga okirina mu home library.
Yalibadde Kulaani ssebo.
Beera nayo mu home library. Ngenda kwogera naye ku ssimu mubuuza abantu bayinza okujja ekitabo kino online.
Bwaba kwali oba maybe ayinza okuwanika omukono.
Dr. Joseph Lubega yali mu UK yo actually gye yatandikira okukola emirimu gye egy'obusawo era gye yabusomera. N'alyoka ajja wano mu America ndowooza nga 2009 awo. Naye nga namusesenkanako enfunda eziwera era ne musaba ekitabo kino akiteeke online abantu basobole okuba nga basobola okukigula. Ano ngenda kwogera naye mujja kwogera ne organizer ajja kuba nga bawa link kwe musobola kugula ekitabo kino naye osobola okuba nga okinoonya online. Bibino ebyama bya walumbe by Dr. Joseph Lubega. Abali e Uganda bw'oba ng'oli Uganda genda ku Statewide Insurance Company Swiko Kuchua House Bombo Road. Ekitabo kino ojja kukifuna. Genda mu Uganda Bookshop oba mu Aristoc ekitabo kino ojja kukifuna. Bibino ebyama bya walumbe kyawandiikibwa Dr. Joseph Lubega. Eno Quran egenda endwadde zonna ze njogeddeko ezo ez'omutwe ne muno yazoogerako nakirabamu. Awo nno bye bigambo ebyo bye njagadde okubategeezaako. Mukyala waliwo ambuuzizza ekibuuzo.
Nze nkubuuziza about the SI, the suicide hotline number in USA.
Oh, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 800-1-800-273-8255.
Okay.
Ayasasfa mbadde nsaba mukulu Jude addemu ekitabo ekyo oba asobola okitukubira ekifaananyi na oba asobola okisharinga wano tufune
I'll send it to you sharing the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mommy Jude, ojja kukimpeereza in my inbox ku message, then I'll share it bakiteeke ku screen one.
Okay, kale nya.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hotline mugifunye is 1-800-273-8255. That is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Bw'olabanga omuntu alabika alina ekigendererwa ekyo ennamba eyo gy'okuba butereevu. Bw'oba togifunye okuba 911.
Bannange twebale nnyo Mwami Kafuuma for your time. Ayina ekibuuzo, you can raise your hand for maybe 3-5 questions. You can raise your hand tubuuze Mwami Kafuuma.
Sister Hafsa, waliwo ayina ekibuuzo mu chat abuuzizza nti nno Mami Judy he has talked about the lack of focus in children. Is there anything they can do to help such a child?
Okay.
Nziremu kimu oba nindeyo ebibuuzo byonna?
What do you prefer?
Obutebeerabira. Lack of focus, attention deficit. Attention deficit omwana bw'abanga alina obuzibu obwo wonna w'oli omwana oyo mutwale ew'omusawo. Mutwale ew'omusawo we. Uganda byawukanamu kuba nze nakula simanyi na musawo wange, naye kati mu nsi zino ezaakula tulina abasawo, primary care physicians. Buli family erina okuba n'omusawo, buli muntu alina okuba n'omusawo. Omwana nga alina attention deficit, butereevu mutwale ewa primary care physician amuyambe. Ajja kusooka amukoleko evaluation oba muweze wa psychiatrist, kati psychiatrist yajja okusobola okumuwandiikira eddagala oba nurse practitioner. Kyeyini ebeera nti bw'olaba omwana alina obulwadde obwo mu nsi zino ezaakula oyogera ne social worker. Kati social worker n'akuyamba kuwa referral ekutuusa ewa primary care doctor, oba bw'oyise ewa primary care doctor butereevu, primary care doctor n'akufunira mental health clinician, which I do. Kati bwe ndaba nga obuzibu buno buyitiridde ku mwana ono ne nkuwandiikira referral, omwana n'agenda alaba psychiatrist afune in-depth evaluation. Ayinza okuba nga attention deficit eno erina biological problem egireese, oba kiyinza okubeera nti hyperactive disorder yemuleetera okubeera nga ali inattentive. Egamba biri combined, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Omwana bw'aba alina ADHD combined, kitegeeza nti alina attention deficit and hyperactive. Bw'aba nga alina ADHD with the attention on the spectrum, then obuzibu bubeera ku attention. Bw'ebeera hyperactive on the spectrum, obuzibu bubeera ku kubeera nti tatereera wamu. Kati ebyo byombi birina eddagala. Awo nno omwana oyo wandibadde omutwala ew'omusawo we. Bw'aba nga talina musawo, buno bwe budde bw'olabira nti oba olina okumutwala ew'obusawo butereevu. Nate twegendereze kino nti abasawo abamu bayinza okutandikirawo omwana ono ku ddagala obutereevu. Ate ekizibu kye si kyakusooka kumutandikirawo ku ddagala. Awo nno omwana bw'omulaba nga alina obubonero buno, kiba kirungi n'omutwala ewa clinician. Kati nze bwe naamukolako evaluation, nja kutegeera nti obulwadde bw'omwana ono buyinza okwetaaga eddagala ne muwa referral. Ne basooka bamukolako evaluation, mental evaluation eri in depth. Kati bamala okukola evaluation eyo ne bategeera ddala obuzibu bwe buva, kati awo ekikolo kye baba banogera eddagala.
Mami Kafuuma, eddagala lya ADHD erimu litera okumakinga disedatinga nnyo abaana kubanga because they say balina hyperactivity ate ne babawa eddagala ne libeera nga libanga eri basedatinga too much. So sometimes abazadde abamu bagenda ne balitya kubanga balowooza nti from the hyperactivity to hypersleeping.
Okay, yes, kati kiba kitegeeza nti eddagala eryo oluusi bamuwadde ddoozi nga y'amaanyiko. Bamuwadde ddoozi nga y'amaanyiko, omwana n'amira eddagala eryo oluusi n'atereeramu, kiba kirungi n'omuzaayo ew'omusawo. Omusawo n'akola evaluation. Omusawo n'alaba nti omwana ono eddagala limukoledde era ali bulungiko, ali waddewaddeko, kati talimuggyako eddagala eryo. Kye bakola bakendeeza ku ddoozi. Nebeera nga eri wansi, n'asigala okubeera nti afokasinga. Obulwadde buno ne mbakulu gye buli bungi nnyo. Era mu nsi zino ezaakula oyinza okutuula nga muli mu class naddala nga graduate school, nolaba neighbour nga ye abadde alaati okuva class eyo yatandise paka leweddeko, kyokka nga ate mwasibye mwenna ku mulimu, naye nga gw'otulo tukutta owulira okooye. Kati abamu aba ali ku ddagala eri. Eddagala eri liba liyamba nnyo abantu abamu. Abalala aba teyeetaaga ddagala, aba yeetaaga kuwummulamu buwummuzi. Abaana abamu abalina attention deficit, oluusi kiba kiva ku bintu bingi. Ayinza okuba teyalidde bulungi eggulo limu oba nga teyeebase bulungi. Kati oba olina okutunuulira ebintu bino byonna, bw'olaba nga omwana abifuna bulungi naye ng'akyalina obuzibu obwo, awo omutwalire ew'omusawo. Eddagala lino bwe liba nga libafuula ate okuba nga beebaka tebali active, kiba kitegeeza nti omuzzaayo ew'omusawo n'asobola okukendeeza ku ddagala lino oba n'alikyusamu. naye nga okwewala ebyo byonna omwana aba alina okusooka okufuna mental health evaluation oba neurological evaluation. Kati neurological evaluation ebeera in depth, bamutwala wa neurologist n'amukolako neuropsychological evaluation. Kati eyo muyamba okutegeera obuzibu ddala we buva ku mwana ono ne basobola okumuwa eddagala ettuufu.
Webale nnyo Mami Kafuuma. Tulina Sister Faridah Ntege.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mwami Jude webale musomo gwaffe ssebo. Ebibuuzo byange nyina bibiri era biyisa mu bufunze. Ekibuuzo ekisooka nsaba kuntangazaamu oba waliwo ekkomo ly'emyaka omuzadde waba alina okukola ki okuba nga anotinze signs ezo omwana okubeera diagnosed oba tekiri. Nzijukira ng'eyawulyako nti omwana balinamu diagnosinga ng'akyali muto, so simanyi, nsaba kuntangazaamu ku ekyo in case omuzadde olwo ate akirabye after that period what to do. Pozi ekibuuzo ekyokubiri, simanyi oba wali owuliddeko ku kintu kye bayita nti omuntu akwatibwa amajini. Bw'oba wali okiwuliddeko nsaba kuntangazaamu if ekyo nakyo kigwa mu gundi ya mental illness.
Nenza nnyo okuddamu amangu ekibuuzo ekyo. Age limit ku diagnosis oba symptoms tewaliwo age limit. Abamu bazuula obulwadde buno ng'abaana bakyali bato. Naddala kati obulwadde buno nga autism ne learning difficulty. Learning difficulty etera okujjira mu kubeera ng'omwana aluddewo okwogera, oluusi okubeera nga aluddewo okuyiga potty training for example, oluusi okubeera nga aluddewo okuyiga ebigambo ebimu. Ekyo kirabira nawaka. Autism, omwana ali autistic, kugamba omwana era omulaba mu nkula ye ng'omuzadde awaka n'ogamba omwana aliko ekitali kituufu. Oba oluusi Down syndrome. Down syndrome kati ate batandise n'okugiraba ng'omwana tanaba na kuzaalibwa ng'akyali mu lubuto lwa nnyina. Kati endwadde zino ezimu baziraba wakati w'emyaka ogusooka paka ku myaka 5 era ne bazinogera eddagala. Abaana abamu balwawo okuziraga ne baziraba wakati w'emyaka 5 n'emyaka 10. Eddagala libawa eriri. Tugamba nti tewaliwo age limit ya ndwadde zino. Ezimu zibbulukuka mu bukulu olw'okubeera nti aba akyali baba bamuwa eddagala ettuufu nga yakazaalibwa, endwadde zino ne zisobola okubeera nga tezivaayo mangu. Tewaliwo age limit. Ku kyoyogedde waliwo kyali kyoyogeddeko?
Amajini, agambye amajini what is the easiest way? Ashraf, what is the easiest way to describe majini mu Luganda?
I think Mr. Jude akitegedde.
Kyogera mu Lusiraamu mu gundi ya
amayembe ebiteege emisambwa
yes.
Kati ebintu ebyo ebimu bigwa mu ziri delusions, paranoid delusions, hallucinations. Mulimu abantu abawulira ebintu nga ddala tebiriiwo. Mulimu abantu abalowooleza nti oba bakuyikkanya, bakuloga, ogundi oyo yandoga. So nga ate ekizibu kye is their personality oba their relations with that person. Mulimu ababa balina delusions, kugamba nga alowooza oba akkiriza mu bintu ebitaliiwo. Kyokka ate ekyo tekituggyako kiri ekyobuwangwa ekiri kati nga mu nsi zaffe nti basamira. Ekyo ne mu nsi zino ezaakula era mu ekiri. Mulimu abantu abagendera ku bintu ebyo. Naye ogenda okubitunuulira ennyo, kye baba bakolako, baba bakola ku mutwe gwo guno. Kubeera nti bakukkirizisa ekintu ekyo nti gye kiri, bakukkiriza ekintu ekyo nti X andoga, X tanjagala, osobola okutwalayo embuzi zo zonna, osobola okuteekayo sente zo zonna, naye nga tekiriiyo. Tugamba bakulowoozesa ebintu ebitaliiyo. Oluusi bye bagamba amajiini, waliwo ekigambo kye tukozesa wano, mbadde ngezaako okukijjukira, ekyamajiini ekyo. Abaana babikola, I think it's a scarecrow. Nedda waliwo ekirala kye bakozesa.
Ebya voodoo doll? Voodoo?
No, si voodoo.
Halloween?
Kautu?
Vampire. Is it?
Waliwo ekirala kye bakozesa wano. Naye kati ebintu ebimu ewaffe mu Africa abantu babikozesa okusobola okuleetawo okutiisatiisa omuntu, asobole okubaako ekintu kyamukolera oba asobole okubaako ekintu kyakkirizisaamu okumujja ku mulamwa. Kyembadde njagala okuleeta ekyo.
Jude wano e London bakozesa black magic.
Black magic?
Bakozesa black magic. Kiri mu bavubuka bangi nnyo wano. Kasita oli agamba nti yakozesa black magic bamutya okukamala.
Kati okutiisatiisa okwo kuleetera omuntu okubeera ne anxiety. Kati anxiety eyo ate neevaamu obulwadde obulala, kyokka nga ate ebintu byatya tebiriiyo. Kati ebyo byonna byonna tuba tulina okubyegendereza. Nyabulowooza ekibuuzo kyo nkizzeemu.
Kaakati okuzira ku time ye UK munaatera okuyingira mu time ya Maghrib. Dina katono sebo. Ate omusomesa afaddako mwami Senkubuge kwali time naye egenda mukwata. Mbadde nsaba mu bwetoowaze obungi to hold those questions. Mwami Kafuuma obadde onoosobola okubeerako okuwuliriza presentation ya mwami Senkubuge tulyoke tuddemu ebibuuzo kuba time ebwe egenda.
Yes, nja kusobola okubeerako. Waliwo abuuza wano ekibuuzo ampeeza ka text nti ate endya y'abaana nayo ntuufu nnyo okubeera nga weegendereza emmere gy'owa abaana naddala nga bakyali bato. Emmere kye kintu ekikulu ennyo kye tulina okufaako ng'abazadde. Omwana gy'okoma okumuwa emmere ennungi eri organic n'okuwala ennyo emmere y'emikebe kiyamba omwana ono okukula obulungi mu bwongo.
Kati mbadde nsaba bulina ebibuuzo. Please hold the bibuuzo. Aisha, mbadde nkusaba mukwano owandiike ebibuuzo ebiri mu chat room. Mwami Senkubuge mwamala okuwa presentation ye, then tubuuze mwami Senkubuge ne mwami Kafuuma ebibuuzo. Mbadde nsaba busabi senga Jawuhara.
Okay, Sister Hafsa.
Yes, please hold your questions to presenter wafaddako olwa time. Tujjaba wakwatu priority. Sebo mwami, would like to recognize presenter wafaddako. Mwami Musa Ali Senkubuge, mental health clinician naye e UK. Sebo akazindaalo ko kalina.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Alhamdulillah, thumma salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi al-kareem, alladhi arsalahu Allahu bil huda wa dinil haqqi lidhhirahu ala ad-dini kullihi wa kafa billahi shahida. Thumma salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Bannange omulimu gwe bampadde nga mukulu wange Kafuuma bwe yayogedde. When I got this topic, it looked so wide for me. And the initial question that was asked of me was actually wider than the one we're dealing with. And I had to ask at some stage that, can you please narrow it down? Kubanga, kansubira bana inti mumpulira. Inshallah.
Yes,
Nendowooza nti question eno oba twongere oginarrowinga muko. And then again, when I spoke to the organizers yesterday, I had to narrow a lot more. Simani, I will do my best. This is a subject that you can actually cover in about 3 years or so, and we still won't finish it. So inshallah, I will do my best. And then secondly, I want to recognize Mwami Kafuuma. Engeri yogedde ebintu bino naddala mu Luganda, for me is really a struggle. Ngabo ogambye abantu abasinga naddala mu societies zaffe Uganda ebintu bye tuyita ebya mental health or mental illness tetwabitegeeranga, twalabanga bulabi muntu ne tumuyita oyo omulalu, abamu twabalamu abalabanga muntu ku makubo nga batambula oba nga alina bwereere. So we didn't understand these things so much. And my background, I'm a teacher by profession. I'm a proud graduate of Islamic University in Uganda and also a graduate of Middlesex University. So much of the mental health, ebintu byensinga okulaba ngezaako biriratinga ku bye twalabanga nga tuli e Uganda, but I've learned most of them mainly in the West. So I will struggle so much okubiza mu Luganda. I must accept that. Naye ebisinga byonna byonna mukulu wange Jude abyogedde nnyo. So I have to congratulate you for that job well done. I also want to say to give special thanks to Sister Shuku. She started this presentation. You cannot talk about mental health, especially if you want to pick the Islamic perspective, without mentioning Surah Al-Duha. She read, and within 5 minutes, actually, she told us a lot about Surah Al-Duha. That was a very beautiful presentation. Inshallah, ngenda kwogera ku mental health nga mukulu wange, ebintu ebisinga ngenda kubisika nga nsikayo ebimu ku byayogeddeko naye nga mbijjayo lwa nsonga nti ebimu nabadde already mbitadde mu presentation yange, ebimu nkyusizaamu olw'ensonga nti we had to okubeera nga ffenna kye twogerako tukitadde wamu. I hope my message is clear. I'm going to share something with you on abasobodde okugoberera mugoberere ku screens zammwe. Ng'oggyeko okutunuulira face yange, you can still look at the screen and see what I'm presenting to you, inshallah. I hope mumpe mu katono nnyo ku byuma wano katono nnyo before I start. Share. Can we see the screen? Singa nfuna omuntu anzira, I know abasinga bali muted. Can we see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay. All right. This is a presentation on mental health. I understand it's part 2 and largely dealing with adult mental health. Mental illness, causes, signs, and treatments. Once again, I'm Musa Ali Senkubuge Kato. I'm a senior clinic nurse lead with North East London Foundation NHS Trust, wano ababera mu UK, that is London. Mental illness. This is not a subject that is so fanciful. As we said, most of us, we don't know about mental health, but we need to understand that there is a distinction between what is called mental health and mental illness. Mental health, we all have mental health. It's part of you, but there is mental illness. Mental illness is when you have a problem with your mental health. Now, bintu bitunulidde in two positions. Okusinziira ku what is mental health? I'm trying to explain in brief terms what is mental health. Mental health is it's just more than the absence of mental disorders. Okubeera nga kye bayita mental health is not necessarily okubeera nti tolina problem. It's much more than that. That is according to the World Health Organization. And also, it's a state of being in which an individual realizes their own abilities, you're able to cope with normal stresses of life, and can work proactively, productively, and contribute to your society positively. That is what mental health is about. Then on the other hand, you have mental health again is a positive state of mind and body. You're feeling safe, you're feeling able to cope. And that is according to the National Health Service in England with a policy paper called Health Without Mental Health. That is what mental health is about. Omuntu okubeera nga obulamu bwo weewuliranga buli kimu katugambe nti oli saafi oba bwe mbankiyita ng'oli osobola okubeerawo mu mbeera nga tokaluubizibwa tulina stresses mu bulamu bwaffe ebintu byobeerako nina okudduka okukola kino nina okukola kino nga you are able to cope. Omuntu alina problem gye tugenda okwogerako on the other hand will always have problems with coping with normal stresses of life. Okay, now health conditions that involve changes in emotions, thinking, or behavior, or a combination of the above, that is what is called an illness. So if you have a condition that is somehow is affecting all these emotions, all your thinking processes, all your behaviors, or you have problems combining all of them, then you should know there is a mental health problem. Now, these are conditions which lead to distress and problems with functioning. The statistics we have are for every 4 people in the world, there is one of us has a mental illness. So I'm gonna be practical. One of us, according to statistics, has a problem with mental health. They've got a mental health problem. So that is a big statistic. So we cannot, in any way, we cannot ignore mental health because it's a big problem. Mu societies zaffe muno mwe tubeera, mu societies zaffe Uganda, abantu naffe twabalamanga ku kyalo, watunuliranga gundi n'omulaba gundi yeeyambudde, gundi atambula bwati, gundi ali bwati. Ezo zonna society ezo lwakubanga nti communities zaffe, especially waffe gye tuva Uganda, we do not put as much emphasis to health, never mind mental health. Abantu baffe mubamanyi omuntu yabeeranga n'obuzibu nga bamutwala oba ebutabika babasibanga enjegere. Up till now, unfortunately, such behaviors happen. So in other words, kyengezaako kugamba kiri nti we are all mad. It's just the degree of madness that varies. Buli lw'otunuulira abantu nga bali bana mu mind yo manya nti omu ku ffe muki. N'olwekyo ku zino degrees zenjogerako madness, abantu abamu abeeraawo nga you can manage without the medication. Others have to manage only if you give them medication. Okay, the causes mukulu wange azogeddeko okwo, I can only just quickly go through them in the interest of time. Ekisooka, there is genetic, that is the family history. If there is a history, a history of mental illness in the family, the chances are one person or the other is going to pick mental health problems. Also, life experiences. And here we're talking about things like stress. And example, you might have stresses with your finances. It could be situations in that you've been forced into it, like people who go through forced marriages. All this is a problem as well. Others, it could be a history of abuse, sexual abuse. There's physical abuse. Some people go through things in their lives that they end up at the early stage. Wakulira bw'ati agenda okukula ebintu ne byonooneka n'obeera nga ofuna obuzibu with your mental health. I'm just summarizing this kubanga mukulu wange Jude abyogeddeko nnyo. You got biological factors like chemical imbalances, you got trauma, brain injury, kyokulabirako omuntu ayinza okubeera nga ends up in an accident and for some reason so that injury, there is a trauma, there is an injury on your brain, then creates a problem for you with your mental health. It could be a case of violence. And say for Uganda we got a long history of violence. We have a long history. buli kaseera wabeerawo something. At the moment, there is a lot of politics, as you know, with the elections in Uganda, but some people have seen what, especially young kids, they will see things that they should not be seeing as children, people being blown up their legs, or even normal war situations like the wars in the 80s and all the wars in northern Uganda and all that stuff. All these things have an impact. They all cumulatively get things problems. So post-trauma stress disorders, PSTDs, as they call them, they've gone through an experience of war. So that is very, very, very important that we do not ignore such things. And also exposure to viruses or chemicals. Example, HIV/AIDS. Some people get that shock. Nafuna AIDS. When they get AIDS, then I just remember actually one of the clients we have, who is a Ugandan incidentally, is under our team because of mental illness on the basis of the fact that he contracted AIDS. So he developed those problems. It could be like when a mother is pregnant and something happens, or you expose yourselves to things. Someone talked about food, whatever. It could be anything that could expose this child. Then cumulatively, something happens, and that is one of the causes. Again, as I said, I'm just summarizing basically what or saying again what my brother Jude talked about. Now, these signs of mental illness, chibaita signs, waliwo ebintu bibiri kanchogereko wano. Waliwo chibaita sign ne chibaita symptom mu mental health. When we talk about a sign of something, a sign is something that can be observed externally. Gwe omuntu gwalaba wolabira omuntu oli n'ogamba nti ddala ono ayina obuzibu ku mutwe gwe, ayina obulwadde bw'omutwe. Then there is what is called a symptom. A symptom in health, when you're talking about a symptom is something that is reported by somebody as who is going through that problem. So there's a distinction between signs and symptoms. So I know people sometimes use them interchangeably as if they mean the same thing. Even in normal English language, they don't mean the same thing. But when someone is talking, you pick what they're trying to say. So with signs is something that I'm talking about, something that I'm observing externally. Or if you want, there's what you call objective and what you call subjective. A subjective, symptoms are subjective is because the person is telling you. Signs are objective because they're observed externally. Okay, kankomeo ku subject yange. Ebigambo bino mukulu wange abyogeddeko. One of them is excessive paranoia. Omuntu n'obeeraawo nga omuntu ali paranoid yabaalowooza nti essaawa yonna waliwo oba amuliko amugoba. Omuntu ne bw'aba akutunuulira era olaba atunuulira nze. Ne bw'aba nga ne bw'oba oyitawo era olaba nze kwegamba abeera nga increasingly alowooza nti waliwo amugoberera oba amugoba oba atamwagaliza oba ki, or worry, excessive worry, n'obeera nga you are too worried. You start overthinking about things, and then that develops into what is called anxiety. Now, let me also tell you that much of this, when we're making diagnosis on these things, is taken over a period of time. It's not one day when you feel, okay, now I have a mental illness. No, it doesn't work like that. It's just observed over a period of time. The other thing you can add is long-standing sadness and irritability. Omutunaberanga is sad for a long period of time. Is irritable. Anything over a period of time, long-standing sadness. And with sadness, as you can see, technically, we'll be looking at things like depression, which Jude has talked about. Extreme changes is mood. Mood is the state of being at any one particular time. I'm sad. How is your mood? Moods are described in different ways. You might talk about sadness. I'm sad. You can be sad, because something has happened in your life at that particular time, oba ofiiriddwa, oba waliwo kino kintu kyo kikubuzeeko, oba waliwo akuvumye, oba akolaki, it does not mean because you sad, then you have a mental illness. No, it has to be over a period of time. And sadness over a period of time, or these changes in mood over a period of time also create a problem, which we will talk about, inshallah. Withdrawal, social withdrawal, dramatic changes in sleep and eating patterns. Omuntu nomulabanga ye a withdrawing mu society, alaba nze abo nze sibajaamu, lubeerera ye abaawo tajaawo, lubeerera nze I don't believe in this, ye era kwegamba ne bwe mbeera nga muli mulumbe ye yezzaako n'atuula eri mu lusuku emmanju, lubeerera nga that is they withdraw themselves from society. They withdraw. And consequently, unfortunately, in most cases, when someone starts withdrawing so much, then you know there is a problem with their mental illness. There is that feeling of worthlessness. Hopelessness, talina ssuubi, helplessness, tewali asobola muyamba. And that's when you end up with people that could be because of regrets. Some people end up in situations, they regret the situation either because of their own making or because of their own making, or because of other forces. Like some people, like women, young women, they might get forced into marriages or into things like that, where it's not their own making. I've spoken about worries, and unfortunately, when such situations happen, people normally take their own lives. They think they are worthless, they think they are hopeless, they think they are helpless. So what is there for me in this world? So what they do, they commit suicide, unfortunately. So these are some of the signs. And how do you assess all this? One of them is the appearance. When we are assessing someone, we look at their appearance, their physical appearance, how they dress, how they present themselves. By the way, all these signs, it could be someone picks one, it could be picks all of them or half of them or things like that. So it all depends on whatever is happening. So it could be their appearance, as I said, the physical appearances, the way they dress. Omuntu omulalu bwe muba mujjukira twaberanga mu byalo ewaffe nzijukire waffe Masaka we had omusajja nga engeri bwe babeera wali bikasasiro engeri gye bambaddemu engeri enviiri zaabwe ziri eri yabawunya, they forget about their personal health, personal hygiene, they don't bath, they don't do those things. If you see someone in your community, if you see someone in your family who is doing these things, please just make sure that you find out what's happening and give them support if it's possible. Their behaviors, the way they behave, they start becoming suspicious. They are apprehensive. They are paranoid. We talked about this word paranoia. Buli kimu alaba nti amutunuulidde lwaki nze bw'atunuulira. Buli kibaawo era nze, buli kimu alowooza nti they suspicious. They don't believe in anything. Buli kintu aba alaba, why me? Everything, why me? Era nze, buli kimu, they start doubting themselves. All this is part of behavior. Then the speech. How do people speak? Oba ogenda okwasesinga omuntu, osobola omuntu ng'omulaba nga alina problem. Bw'oba wali olabye omuntu ali manic obulungi. I don't know if they have spoken about manic. Engeri gy'ayogera boogera n'omulaba ng'eddoboozi liri waggulu nnyo. That is the tone, the volume, ebigambo by'akozesa bingi nnyo nnyo nnyo. The rate, ali rapid, abamu ayogera n'omulaba nga n'amalusu gamuva mu kamwa. And if someone is speaking like that, just because that 1 minute ali angry, it's okay to be angry. But if that's how this person speaks over a period of time, there is a problem which you need to look at. Now we talk about mood and affect. Mood nchogeddeko, muntu okubeera nga ali sad, muntu n'obeera waliwo omuntu abeera mu state nga olumu abeera sad, omulala n'abeera nga atali happy nnyo. Kwegamba n'owulira ze bayita, we call them mood disorders. That is mania. There are two different things, by the way, even when we come to treatments. With mood issues, mood problems, mood disorders, you've got what you have, the negative side of it, which is depression. Someone comes completely down. Nene wabera wali wagulu owulira muntu ali maniki omulaba manyi babera na manji nnyo bakuulira nti yagundi omwana yannemerera amanyi ne gayina manji nnyo juzi yabakete n'akuba na buli muntu n'oluggi olwabadde mu ddiiro nalwo yalugyemu n'alusula. They have so much energy, so much power. All this is a mental illness. So as someone kubeera ng'okitunuulira n'olaba how you help this person, and I'll look at how you help people. Thought, perception. Now, if these two, by thought, we're talking about the thinking. Someone has, and perception is how you think of yourself. There's one thing to think and how you think of yourself. Now, if these two are affected, that is when psychosis walks in. And I'll talk about psychosis in a few minutes. More on psychosis. Let me talk about psychosis before I go back to those signs. One, these two words, my brother has talked about them, but I'm going to elaborate on them. One, hallucinations. What is a hallucination? A hallucination, mu Luganda kwe bayita oba okulogojjana. Waliwo okulogojjana okubeerawo nga kuzze because of physical health problems. Ekyokulabirako omuntu ng'alina a urinary tract infection, oba omwina ng'alina any other infection, omuntu bw'ati asobola okubeera ng'alogojjana, oba temperature eri waggulu nnyo, and this is a physical problem. We're not talking about that side of it. We're talking about a problem as a mental illness. So hallucinations, that's when the thinking process gets affected. Engeri gy'olowoozaamu ng'eri affected. Now, hallucinations affect the five senses. Fenna tukimanyi nti omuntu yenna ayina senses ziri ttaano. I'm gonna be a little bit cautious here saying this. I hear that women have 6 senses, but I'm not looking at the 6th sense. I'm only looking at the 5 senses. And these are sight, the visual. N'omuwulira omuntu ng'akugamba nti nno ayina ze bayita visual hallucinations. In other words, alaba ebintu olw'okuba mind ye mugamba nti weebiri naye nga tebiriiwo. How does this affect someone? Ngenda bikulaga mu maaso. Endala, smell, omuntu n'abeera nga yabeera awunyiriza ebintu nga buli wabeera wawunya. Oba ayina ebintu byawunya ebimuwunyirira naye nga actually si bwe kiri. Audio, ayina ebintu byawulira. Taste, ayina ebintu bya smelling, bya tasting nga kumwa. Or touch, nga ye abeera nga akwata. I'm going to explain all these in just a few sentences. Now, omuntu yenna buli lwabeera nga ayina effect ku all these 5 or any one of them, as I said, aba ayina hallucinations. Now, these hallucinations affect you bwenga omuntu. Ekyokulabirako, omuntu bw'agamba nti oyinza okulaba omuntu ng'agaana okugenda mu buliri okwebaka. As ekyokulabirako. As an example, refuses to go to bed. Why? Because in their mind, they see that under the bed, there are snakes. Because they see them. Or, akugamba nti nze ndaba kino naye nga ggwe ne bw'oleeta abantu 50 oba 200 obimugambe nti tebiriwo, will never believe you. So that is a hallucination. It's affecting that person. Now, affecting that person, lack of sleep is a problem. We'll talk about it. If you don't have sleep, then you're going to get into more problems. Ekirala, smell. Omuntu ayinza okubeera nga ye tasobola kulya mmere olw'ensonga buli mmere gy'akwatako emuwunyirira bubi. Olaba bw'obeera nga tolya, how it affects your physical health. Then you lose weight, etc., and whatever. If you lose weight or you're not eating, then your immune system is also affected because you're not eating, and nebigenda mu maaso. Taste, same thing, but chimu testingira bubi. Taste this or taste that, then they're not going to eat it. And also, touch, which is a sense, it's your sense of touch. If you feel all these or any one of them are affected, then there is a problem. If anyone tells you this in your family or in your community, please make sure they get support. A delusion. A delusion is a belief that is untrue on the basis of culture, background, or public knowledge. Belief, ebeera family, omuntu abeera nga they believe nti ekyo bwe kiri about them. But we know they are not. I'll give you a simple example. I live in England. If I say to you today that Prince Charles is my older brother, you will say I'm deluded, I'm mad, basically. Because we know culturally that not only I'm not a white person, but also public knowledge, we know that Abana Bakwini, these are A, B, C, D, Z. That is what is called a delusion. So you know something, you believe genuinely that that is what it is. Now, these beliefs could be a belief of grandeur. Someone thinks they're too wealthy. I remember years ago, I used to have a patient on one of my wards who used to tell us he owns about 2,000 cabs, and he's the owner of the Coca-Cola company. I mean, he's the owner of this, he's very rich. But even if smoking, just to smoke, we'll ask his friends to give him tobacco. That is, he thinks he's so wealthy. We had this very drunkard guy, but we grew up calling him mayor because he believed he's in mayor and everybody calls him mayor. That is wealth and status. Or religious beliefs. Zitia, I think you've seen people about wars anti they are Jesus, or I'm a prophet, or this. And please, I'm not attacking Christian missionaries. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just stating facts here, because you might have someone you call prophet who, prophet Mbonye, or prophet whoever. I'm not talking about that. But if someone clearly believes he's a Jesus, or is Muhammad, or is Adam, or whatever, talking about these prophets, then that is a religious delusions. Others say they directly speak to God, and God told me this and this. All these are delusions. There is also denial of reality. I'm gonna be again controversial here. When someone refuses to accept what is real, which we know, the very classic example we have today is a bloke called Donald Trump. He lost the elections. Everybody knows. About him, America, I'm sorry if I'm offending you here. We know, but he continuously refuses to believe. That's denial. He is denying the reality. And I saw him this morning saying he's going to form the the government for next 5 years or something. That is a delusion. He's quite deluded. Now, unfortunately, if he was a common, or whatever, let me put it this way. If he was a common person, he would be in a mental health institution. But because he's a big man, nobody is offered to give him any kind of psychiatric help, but they should. Now, all these things I've talked about end up in that thing we call schizophrenia. Jude talked about it. The word schizophrenia has two sides of it. If you see it, there is a bit that says schizo means split. Phrenia means mind, and that shows to you that when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about the mind. We're talking about what affects the brain. We have diagnosis, what we call them diagnosis tools. When you diagnosing somebody, how do you diagnose them? What are the tools you use? There's the ICD-10, that's an American version of things. And there are so many others. I think there are about 3 of them, but the most commonly used is the ICD-10. All these mental health diagnoses are all under this ICD-10. They use the 10. 10 is a number there. And you talk about things like schizophrenia, there is the sexual-affective disorders, there is autism. My friend talked about autism. There's so many of them. They're all under the ICD-10. I'm not going to talk about this because this is a big subject. Yes, I'm going to go back to how do you see someone. I just wanted to pick out the things about hallucinations because we talked about them. Now, what are the signs? How do you assess someone? One other thing is the cognition. These things are very familiar with you. Cognition. Chiche tuita cognition. Cognition comes from the English word cognize. Cognize. What does cognize mean? Cognize means the first time you see or hear something and you implant an image. Let me use the word see only. The first time you see someone, the first time you've seen me, you have implanted an image of how Senkubuge looks like on your mind. That is cognizing, or cognition for that matter. Now, every time you see me and you ask me, what's your name? My name is Semuddu. That is it. That is cognition. Now, the second time, or every time you see me, you're not cognizing me. We put an RE at the back. Those of you who are very good with the English language, that becomes recognition. So every time you see me, you just have to look at me without asking, are you saying Kubuge or whatever? Now, for someone who has problems with their cognition, they got memory impairments. I remember that the memory impairments could be gone forever, or some have that they can only remember what is what you call short-term memory, or can only have long-term, can only lose long-term memory. I remember my uncle Sheikh Bruhan in Ganati Rokfa. When I went to see him, you will see him and say, "Oh, salaam alaikum, oh my son from London, or whatever." Once he looks away, he has to hug you again because he has forgotten that he saw you a few seconds ago. So all these cognition, once your cognition is impacted, you're not able to recognize things. You are not able to remember things. That is when what happens. And also, it comes out with time, place, and person. In other words, you cannot tell what time it is today. You see someone, they're so confused. They don't know. If I ask anyone here, what's the time, you all likely to tell me, this is the time. Which place they are in? Where are they? Who are they? Some people don't know themselves. Again, unfortunately, this goes into all these things I've talked about, long-term memory problems and things like dementia or Alzheimer's and all that stuff. These are very, very real. I've given you an example of my own uncle and who had Alzheimer's, and I'm sure you all have family members who have issues with these kind of conditions. Some of them come because the body is degenerating because you are growing old as part of the growing system. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَنْ نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَقِّصُهُ مِنْ خَلْقٍ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Whoever Allah has given too much age, you grow up, that's a literal translation. Then you kind of go back. That's Surah Yasin. وَمَنْ نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَقِّصُهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. So it could be as part of the problem, but also some people have all these things diagnosed for them at the early age. 51-year-old diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, and it's very sad. If you've been to nursing homes or to residential homes, you go and see maybe a wife comes to see her husband, and they cannot even look at each other. They cannot even recall who they are. These are very sad stories. And I'm sure you have these kind of things. Wafe Mobiaro, Uganda, someone cannot recognize themselves. Why? That there's a mental health problem. Their memory, their cognition, their memory is being impacted. Insight. What we call insight is the ability to know what is happening with yourself and the environment around you. Insight. You do have no awareness of what is happening around you. If someone has that problem, then there is a problem with their mental health. In other words, they got a mental illness. Now, unfortunately for people, some people, when they are ill, they think they are well, and everyone else is the one who is not well. Some people also normalize abnormal behaviors. I call them abnormal in quotes. Abnormal behaviors like walking naked. I've given you a simple example. I've got a client in my team who believes all of us, the practitioners, including the consultants, the doctors, whatever, we are the ones who are not well. We should be taking medication, we shouldn't. So that is, they have no insight of what's happening. There is no awareness of themselves. They have no awareness of the environment that is surrounding them. Now, I'm going to talk about treatment, but before I give you treatments, I'm going to speak about the pathways. Pathways to treatment. In other words, what do you do? Before you go professional, please speak to a member of your family. Speak to someone you know. Speak to who is a friend. Anyone you feel you can talk to. A problem shared is a problem solved, as they say. If someone is going through problems, whether they're financial, stress, or whatever, talk to your husband, talk to your wife, talk to your sister, talk to whoever you can have that confidence and explain to them, and this is the problem I'm going through. Then that is the first thing. The next thing is primary care. Now, Jude yagambye nti yakula tamanyi na musawo we, and I'm sure all of us abali myaka gyaffe wakula tomanyi nti oyina omusawo kubeera tewamwina, tewabeera nga omulwadde lwe bakutwala ewa kalungu ewa gundi oba lwe bakutwala ewa whoever, because you didn't have that. In the Western world, we have a system of primary care. We have family doctors. In England, we call them GPs, general practitioners. Every person in England, every person in the United Kingdom has a doctor. You have to have a doctor. If you don't have a doctor, you have a problem. If anyone you know has no doctor, they have a problem. Why? Because they are the primary care. They are the entry into the healthcare system here. And alhamdulillah, abali mu Europe, particularly England, I don't know the rest of Europe, but I know you don't even pay a penny. So you just have to register. That's one thing. In other words, if you have a problem, if you're not feeling bad, if you're not feeling well, you're speaking to your family, speaking to whoever, please go and see your doctor. There's secondary care, and that's when you have to be taken to hospital. If there's a problem, you go to hospital. And again, in England, we don't pay for for health care. You also have to go to mental health teams, like I lead a mental health team. That's one of them. You can ask all that. Those are the pathways. To say to you, one of them is not written here. That's your social network. And then, of course, the family and the secondary. Any one of them, you are good to go. Now, the treatments. I have no idea how much time I still have. Sister Asfa, can you answer me that? Hello?
Yes, sir. I think you still have about 30 minutes, 20 minutes.
Oh, that's great. I'm gonna try to finish up. My only problem is Margaret is walked in, and if I don't pray, I feel extremely bad. So I'm gonna try to be quick, inshallah. I say treatments. One is the pharmacological option. The first thing, once you've gone through the assessments, you've been seen by a clinician, you've seen etc, which Jude talked about, we use medicine. That's pharmacology. That is the most commonly used treatment method. And there are so many of these we use in England, we use a book called the BNF. It looks at all the medication that there is that you can use in England, authorized, not only mental health for mental health illnesses, but for all others. So we use the antipsychotics if someone has a psychotic problem, or we use, and examples here I can give, we have what they call the typical or the OD drugs like haloperidol. These names are funny, guys. I don't want to bore you with these. Because you only encounter them when you are in the system. So I only mentioned haloperidol, and you got a typical ones, which are the new ones, the new version. The difference means one gives you side effects, more side effects than the other, and they are the newer generation. So I do not want to bore you guys with all this stuff. And I also mentioned antidepressants, use of antidepressants. Again, if someone is so depressed, what do? We give them medication. That's one. We also have, I spoke about mania, like anti-manic drugs, like the Depakols and all that stuff. Again, once again, I'm not going to talk about medication because this will bore you to death. You don't need to know all this stuff. But this is one of the treatments. So the main treatment that is mostly commonly used is the pharmacological approach. In other words, where I'm Dagala. Then, echidako therapies. These therapies, or call them psychotherapies, these are used over a period of time. You can call them talking therapies. And they're usually used by a psychologist, and other trained therapists. Now, example, Jenso Kua is CBT. CBT means cognitive behavior therapy. What this is it helps you cognitive. If you remember, we talked about cognition in the last two, I think, slides. Cognition is to do with the thinking, how your mind works. Behavior. Now, they're looking at how your mind influences your behavior and the other way around. The word therapy is basically treatment. So I'm not going to look at all this, but these are psychotherapies. Apart from medication, these, as I said, with psychotherapies, you need to go through the primary care system, through your GP or whatever, to be able to access them. If you have the money, obviously, you're happy to pay private, you can walk into any place. And they do not need, it's all about talking to you and find out how you think about things, why this, why that, and they help you understand. And they are quite good with people who have gone through traumas, by the way. Like someone who's gone through a war zone, or someone who's had a forced marriage. My dad forced me into a marriage, and look, now I'm regretting, whatever, or domestic violence, all these kind of things. People get through traumas, or EUPDs. EUPs, unstable, what's the word EUP? God. It's not working. It's personality disorder, emotionally unstable personality disorder. Quote it.
And so you are interrupting. I apologize.
No.
Within at least 10 minutes, so we can allow.
I will be done. I'll be done, inshallah. So this is one of them. All these therapies are good when you're dealing with that. These medications do not work with people who have emotionally unstable personality disorders, like people who self-harms. You can see someone always, they'll cut themselves, whatever. Something happens, they want to release it, they release it by cutting themselves. Or people have gone through traumas, as I said, wars, forced marriages, etc., etc. Another form of treatment is the social recovery models. This is something to do with work. As an example, when someone has got no job, you're sitting from one day, from the morning, whatever, you don't do anything. So you try, when someone has a problem, try to make sure that they get some work to do. It could be paid work, obviously, it's better because you got the financial incentive to it, but also can be voluntary work. Maybe ogenda ku muzikiti mutunula banga aina kyakolo kubera ngo kera bukezi no tulao. Again, have a family around you. It's a social recovery model. Talk to your families. Share the problems. When you have, also education is one of them. When someone is so bored, we're talking about adults now, they're not in school, try to get them to join in if there's no work, try them to join into like a university or a college to do some course to occupy their life. If you don't have a structure in life, there is a problem. Physical exercises. Exercise is one of the biggest main treatment, I don't know how to put it, with mental illness. If your body is good, if you're feeling good, you will feel good mentally. So if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling something's not working out, go out there and have jogs. Just run around. You will feel a lot better. Also treatments around food. Jude talked about food, what food is given to people. Now, unfortunately, we have these issues like bulimia, especially with young girls. Bulimia is the opposite of anorexia. Anorexia is when people just stop eating. They refuse to eat. And some also use laxatives, things that they will eat, but they will quickly go to the toilet and take it out. So they become small and small, because especially girls, because of the pressures of adolescency, they want to look good, they want to look this, they want to look this. So they end up, or even the pressures from the so-called celebrities. They want to look like, I don't know the women celebrities, you guys know them. Or bulimia. Bulimia is when someone overeats. They are eating too much because of whatever. They use food as a comfort. They eat and then the book become big, and then physical health gets tampered with, etc., etc. I'm quickly going through this. All this is part of it. Sleep hygiene. I picked this ayah. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ مَنَامُكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَابْتِغَاؤُكُمْ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَسْمَعُونَ. This is Surah Al-Rum, I think, Surah Al-Rum. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala talks about one of his signs is sleep. There's a couple of ayahs in the Quran that talk about sleep. You need to have enough sleep. If you do not sleep, you're gonna create all these problems in your life. You will start overthinking, you start developing problems. Please ensure that you have enough sleep. I cannot stress this. Please ensure you have enough sleep. That is the most I can say about it at this point in time. That's the meaning of the ayah, and one of his signs, that's Allah's signs, is you are sleeping and you're seeking rest. My interest is on the word sleep. The spiritual side of it, religion, seek help from your sheikhs, from your religious people, because mankind, we as a person, you have to look at yourself as in a holistic way, as a whole. You have your body, you have your mind, you have your spirits, whatever. Also, your spiritual being is very important. Do your salahs, do whatever that you need to do. Seek help with the sheikhs and the pastors and things like that. Please do not keep quiet when you have a problem. If anything is happening to you, just go. There was a discussion earlier about the jinns and whatever. We Muslims, we know the presence of jinns. In the Western world, when you talk about jinns, it becomes a delusion, or they say you're hallucinating or whatever. But as Muslims, we know Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. He created the two of them. This is a long discussion. I'm sure a sheikh would come and talk to you about jinns in a different situation. All these religious delusions I talked about. Now, my conclusions: lifestyle, mental health. Most cause of current spell of mental health is due to lifestyle. We talked about the origins, we talked about genetics, we talked about all these things, but now I'm concluding in the context of what is happening at the moment is caused by lifestyle. In other words, people take drugs. In the Western world, people take drugs, all of them, including celebrities and whatever, and young people, cocaine, marijuana, spice, and all them ones. All of them, they help them, they feel good at a very short period of time. But the impact, cannabis, the impact on your mental health is very, very, very bad. So what you have to do, if you have a child, a young person or whatever, or anyone you know that is taking drugs, try to get them away from the drugs. If they already taken drugs, go and seek specialist help with drug and substance misuse. So that is the big thing. The other one is alcohol. Now, for my friends who are non-Muslims on this platform, I want to tell you that alcohol is a depressant. People take alcohol. Can you please mute? I'm getting things back in me. People use alcohol to cover their problems. They have dates, they have problems in their marriages, they have this, and they take alcohol. They forget that alcohol is actually a depressant. Alcohol for Muslims, you must never, ever, 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 ever touch alcohol. Why? It's probably the only sin, if I'm not forgotten, that Allah has cast about 10 stages about it. Whoever drinks it, whoever shows them, whoever directs them, whoever. There are about 10 groups. Never come near it. For non-Muslims, please do not binge. That's all I can say to you. If you can afford not to drink, just don't drink. There's nothing good in it apart from problems and depression. Coronavirus. How can I stop without talking coronavirus? Coronavirus, the main impact on mental health is not yet being assessed, but as I've indicated here, there's loss of freedom and constraints. We had lockdowns. You remember lockdowns? Lockdowns here, ours just finished about a week ago or something. There was the initial lockdown in March across the entire world. Human beings were constrained. Others were killed in Uganda. People were shot at for going beyond the curfew, whatever it is. All these things that are affecting people. Of course, so many people have lost jobs. There's so many companies that have gone under, the schools in Uganda. All these things are affecting the financial impact, the depression, and the suicides. People are killing themselves. So please, if you know of anyone who is in any, we all affected somehow with the coronavirus. We all affected. But some of us are more affected than others. Some of us who work in healthcare, for instance, our jobs kept going. But someone who was working in a shop next door, whatever it is, because of whatever, they've been sacked, they've done whatever, all these things, please, with coronavirus, the impact of it is not yet calculated. Human beings are not meant to be constrained. They need to be moving around. But because you've taken their freedom away, and some were told you can't even go out to exercise, etc., etc., that impact is very, 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 very real to so many people. And unfortunately, in 2-3 years, you'll see more. Because I know of people, some of them are our clients, who have committed suicide because they can't take it anymore. So please, coronavirus, I'm not talking about coronavirus. I'm only interested in the impact of it at the moment. And there is no, as I said from the beginning, there is no health without mental health. And again, it's okay not to feel okay. If you don't feel good, it's okay. All you have to do is ask help, either socially from within your social circles, your family, your wife, your husband, your etc., or professionally. Seek anyone who can support you. This is my last part of advice I give people. Always look after 2 things in your life. One of them is your back. When you have a problem with your back or with your brain, they go forever, unfortunately. If you have a problem with your leg, we can always give you another one. We actually give people in healthcare, we give them new hearts. It happens. We give them new livers. You give them new kidneys. We can't give you a back. We can't give you a brain. So please, whatever you do, look after them. Do not take alcohol, do not take drugs. And if you have any way you feel unwell in any way or form, please quickly seek help. For people who are from the Black minority ethnic background, especially in the West, in the US, in Europe, in UK here, we have so many of, I've worked in the prison services, in the mental health divisions there. There's so many young Black people that are in mental health institutions. Why? Because of some of the reasons we've mentioned, but also most importantly, because they think taking drugs is cool. It's not cool. And they're always caught into the mental health law. They are the ones who are mostly sectioned. They are forced into hospitals because of that. Well, that is my last thing I can ask you. Do you have any questions? Any questions? I have to stop there. If, as I said, I pay tribute to Shukuru and Jude, who started before me. They did a brilliant job. I've done my best to summarize everything, more or less everything about mental health in a very short period of time. And if you have questions, kindly, I'm sure I've not covered everything in mental health. That is definite. What I now will answer back, inshallah.
Inshallah. Barakallahu fikum.
Can I ask that the first questions go to Jude, because I just wanna take a few minutes, about 5-10 minutes to pray.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anyone has questions to me, maybe get them written down or something, but I need to pray first.
Okay, no problem.
Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakumullah khair. Let's go. Sister Aisha, you had some questions? Is that what them chat room?
Yes, I do. Question, what is the difference between autism and Down syndrome?
That's Jude. I'm gonna put the prayer.
Aisha, mute yourself.
You
have noise in the background.
Yes, the question, what is the difference between autism and Down syndrome?
Okay. Mami Kafuuma, that's a question for you. And Sister Jauhara and Prince, they had their hands up before. Mbadde njagala mbawe chance. Prince ne Sister Jauhara. Babadde bakyaliko.
Right now, Obadeo Saidi, maybe tomorrow as they come back.
Mr. Kafuuma, you want questions two or three in a row or just one at a time?
Mr. Kafuuma nga avuddewo ku ntebe ye. Akomyewo.
Mr. Kafuuma, do you want questions back to back or one at a time? Or you got questions back to back or one at a time?
Yeah, I can have 3 or 4, then I answer those.
Okay. Saeed, Brother Saeed. Brother Saeed, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khair for a very powerful presentation. My contribution again ko speaking out, no identifying obuzibu bwa mental health. Abantu ababeera around omuntu alina obuzibu balina okubeera nga baplayinga part nene nnyo okugeza tutera okufuna signs ezo eri okugeza nga abaana betuwangaala nabo naye olwaddinaayo eyo naddala eri eka gye tuva kati ng'e-Uganda waliwo ekizibu kya ddinaayo okubeera nti omuzadde n'ab'eŋŋanda bagezaako okulwanyisa ate ekituufu ekiriwo ate nga bandibadde oba oli awo banguwa okwa-identifying obuzibu ne basala amagezi nga bukyali. Kizibu ekyo kibaawo nnyo e Uganda eyo nti by the time bwe bagenda okusaba obujjanjabi oba consultation ng'obudde buyiseewo. Kati nkubiriza mwenna ba members abali wano nti bw'omala okulaba signs ezo Brother Musa z'atusomesezzaako olwaleero tandika okuengaginga n'omulwadde mpola mpola okusobola okulaba ebirowoozo bye ate togezaako okufuuka expert wa bulwadde. Bw'omala okulaba signs ezisoma ku mental health genda mufune consultation eri ba experts tusobole okuyamba abantu baffe kuba bangi bafuna obuzibu naye olw'okuba nti tulwawo okukola kye tulina okukola ekituufu ne twesanga nga ekizibu kigeze. Jazakumullahu khair.
Jazakumullahu khair, Brother Said, for your contribution. Mami, I'm going to read these questions. Mami Kafuuma bakimpeereza privately. Kigamba nti mumbuulize omwana bw'abeera nga mukulu naye nga buli kyakola tatinywererako. Is it mental illness? For example, n'akola ekintu bulungi n'osanyuka then n'akivaako n'atakiddako. Is that mental illness? Mwami Kafuuma, ekibuuzo kiwulidde?
Yenyabo.
Okay. Okay. My name is Sonyiwe Moko. We're going to take a few questions. Then to tweet Msomesa wa Fadako, Ambassador Semuddu is also ready to give us.
Ekibuuzo nsaba kunziramu bibuuzo ebyo nafune ekibuuzo.
The difference between autism and Down syndrome.
Okay, then ekirala kibadde
ekibaddeyo kigamba nti omwana bw'abeera nga mukulu naye nga buli kyakola takinywererako. Is it mental illness? For example, n'akola ekintu bulungi n'osanyuka then n'kivaako takiddako. Ekirala nkwongera ekirala ssebo.
Yes.
Ekirala ne kigamba omwana atayagala kusoma naye nayo ebeera mental illness. Ategeera bulungi naye bwe kutuuka kusoma n'anyiga ne yeekwasa obusongasonga, eyo neyo nabe ebeera mental illness.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, byosebo, we can start with those.
Okay, omwana atayagala kusoma yeekwasa obusongasonga.
Okay.
I was taking note of this. Okay. Kakati ebibuuzo nina bisatu. Ekisooka enjawulo wakati wa autism ne Down syndrome. Ekyokubiri omwana gw'oyogedde alina obuzibu bwa attention deficit, ekyo kyenfunyemu. Ekyokusatu omwana atayagala kusoma yeekwasa obusongasonga. Okay. Kati autism versus Down syndrome. Njagala kutandika n'ekyo nti Down syndrome, to start with, this is an illness that can be identified when a child is between their first day and about 5 years. Sometimes with the modern technology, they identify this when the child is still in their mother's womb. So some of the causes of this may be biological in most cases. Others may be due to medication that the mother takes during pregnancy. So, autism, I want to give this, sorry, just a second. Okay. Yeah. Autism spectrum disorder oba olusoyinza okulaba nga bawandise ASD nga bawandise mudwala nga bawandise ko DX ASD. Omwana yaba alina diagnosis ya autism spectrum disorder. This is developmental. The expression of a syndrome varies with the child's age and developmental level. So autism can coexist with the conditions such as mental retardation or seizures disorder, or what we can call Down syndrome. So this autism is mostly a lifelong condition. We can have a medication to treat it, but in most cases, it won't go away. And children who are born with the autism sometimes develop other mental illnesses that we talked about before, and the mental illnesses that Mr. Musa Senkubuge talked about. So when a child is autistic, this child has learning disabilities, this child has developmental challenges, and this child is not going to be placed in the same class like any other normal child. So what is going to happen is they place them in a special ed class where they have two teachers, one instructing and the other teacher helping the child to learn in the class. And in most cases, these children develop mostly all the other behavior issues we have talked about. They develop anxiety, fear that they are not understanding me or they are not recognizing me. they are going to develop a lot of disruptive behavior. Sometimes they develop a lot of anger-related issues, because they are frustrated. They cannot do things the same way other kids are doing them. So these are frustrations that come with the children who are autistic. We have treatment and the special measures that can be done. Here in the US. They place these kids in the special ed classes, and they have an individualized education program, which we call IEP here. So we developed those IEPs, individualized education program, which I believe even the UK has the same kind of program. In Uganda, I have seen the schools in Mengo. There's a school I went to in Mengo that is helping these kids who are autistic and with Down syndrome. So that is the difference. The difference is in the Down syndrome kids, in most cases, these kids, the autistic child will understand some things that a Down syndrome child is not going to understand, because with the Down syndrome, they have challenges of social skills. They have challenges of even holding a pen and writing down their names. So they both have disability to learn, but also developmental delay. In an autistic child, they have also developmental delay and learning disability, but this can easily be corrected if someone is working with them. So the best way to help these kids is see a doctor to help you get the necessary treatment that you need in terms of medication, but also have someone who works as an occupational therapist or a language therapist, especially for kids who have Down syndrome, to help them learn the language in an easy way, instead of leaving them to learn things from the teacher by themselves. Because schools also have a challenge. They may have the right teachers, but they may not have the language therapist to help this child. Autistic kids, in most cases, have been addressed, and even in Uganda, we have seen this addressed in schools. If they identify a child that is autistic, they are going to immediately address this with the doctors, and they are going to place them in the right schools. Now, the difference here is placing these children in the right schools, because if you place them in the normal classes with other kids, the teacher may be fast teaching English or history or geography or math, thinking that all the children are understanding them. So a child who has Down syndrome or autism is not going to understand anything at all, because they cannot run at the same pace with other kids. Omwana alina Down syndrome n'omwana alina autism kumpi baba bafaanaganamu. Enjawulo ebeera nti omwana alina autism asobola okuyambibwa okuyiga mu class ebintu, ate omwana alina Down syndrome oluusi by'atasobola kuyiga mangu. Omwana alina Down syndrome abeera ayiga mpola ng'omwana owa autism, naye omwana owa autism yaba asusulako nti obulwadde bwe busobola okuyambibwa ng'afunye eddagala. N'omwana alina Down syndrome, bombi baba benkanya obusungu. Abaana bano batera okubeera n'obusungu obuyitiridde. Obusungu buno ng'ekibuleeta nti lwaki sisobola kutegeera bintu nga bannange babitegeera, sisobola kuzannya bulungi na bannange nga be bazannya, olw'okubeera endwadde zino ezimu eziri mu mubiri gwe. Abamu baba babufuna bakyali mu mbuto, abalala babufuna nga bazaaliddwa, kati eddagala eryo liba lisobola okubaweebwa okutereeza embeera zaabwe ezo. Kiba kizibu nnyo, era nga bagamba mu lulimi olw'abasawo, okutereeza abaana bano completely, naye bafuna eddagala eribayambako okukula obulungi mu mbeera eyawukanako nga edda bwe twalabanga abaana bano nga bakula, nti tebabawanga ddagala, luusi tebaagendanga na mu masomero kubanga bagambanga nti ono omwana alina obulimu ku mutwe tasobola kuyiga. Kati ate ekyo kyakyusibwa olw'okubeera nti waliwo okunoonyereza mu bya sayansi n'eddagala. bwe ngenda ku mwana gwe wagambye wakinyonyodde otya? Okay, kansooke omwana ono atayagala kusoma eyeekwasa buli kasongasonga. Omwana nga tayagala kusoma yeekwasa buli kasongasonga, sooka otunuleeka embeera eri etya awaka. Mulimu abaana abatayagala kusoma nga beekwasa buli kasongasonga olw'okubeera nti embeera gy'akuliddemu awaka buli kimu akifuna nga bw'akyagala. Gye twakulira Uganda twalingambye nti omwana ava mu maka mu famire engagga oba abaana abava mu maka amagagga, nga tugamba nti abaana abo abamu baafunanga obuzibu nga tebaagala kusoma kubanga buli kye baali baagala eka kyabaweebwanga. Kati ekitaabaweebwanga kyekyo kubagamba nti taata ne maama senga banaaba bavuddeyo oba owezezza emyaka 18 oba 21 ogenda kwetengerera. Oneetengerera otya nga tosobodde kusoma? Kati omwana atayagala kusoma oba olina kutunuulira waka biki ebiri awaka ebigaana omwana ono okusoma. Alina baasiiba nabo abamulaga ebintu ebirala ebitamugwanyiza genda ku ssomero, oba asiiba ku TV, oba asiiba azannya ku PlayStation, oba asiiba azannya games ez'oku iPad. Kwegamba oba olina okwetegereza biki ebiganya omwana ono okugenda okusoma. Mu mbeera eya bulijjo taata ne maama beba lukulwe mu mwana ono okubeera nti ayagala okugenda ku ssomero. Bw'atuusa emyaka 1 oba 2 omwana oyo n'otandika okuba nga omusomero obutabo, mu kifo ky'okumusindika ebweru gende bweru ozannye ne banno. Naye akadde obeere nga omutandikira ewaka okumusomesa obutabo oba okukola kala oba painting, ne bw'aba alabye cartoons oba toys ku TV muteereko ezirina education perspective, egamba nga alina by'asobola okuyigamu okusinga cartoons ezitamuyamba. Waliwo omukwano gwange ennaku zino bamuyita Mwami Jagwe, waliwo n'omulala ali UK ampeereza bu CDs obwo, mukwano gw'abato. Bw'ogenda ku YouTube n'oteekamu mukwano gw'abato ojja kulaba
Diana Lwanga.
Exactly, Diana Lwanga, yes. Mukwano gwange nnyo oyo nayogera nabo ne bampeereza obuyimba obwo nursery rhymes. Kati okuyigiriza omwana kampe ekyokulabirako Oluganda wano mu nsi ze tulimu etali Uganda. Ne Uganda kati nnyimba kizoowuliriza ng'oli ewaka, nnyimba kizoowuliriza ng'oli mu mmotoka, bw'oba oyogera ne banno lulimi ki lwe mwogera nalwo. Ebyo byennyini omwana byagenda okukwata obutereevu. Senga mutabani wange abadde wano nandimuleese ne musimba wano n'aboogerera mu Luganda kwegana mmwe ne musekamu. Baluyiga nga bayita mu kuyimba, baluyiga nga bayita mu bye balaba ku TV olulimi lwabwe. Kati ne kiri ekya mwana atayagala kugenda ku ssomero oba alina obuzibu bwa attention deficit, omwana atassaayo mwoyo ku by'ayiga, kijjira omwo nti omwana omutandika akyali ddala eno wansi. Bagamba mwana mugimu ava ku ngozi. Kati by'omutandikizaako eno wansi, ennyimba z'oteekamu mu mmotoka ng'omutwala ku daycare oba ku ssomero, puroguramu z'owuliriza, olwo olulimi lwagenda okukwata era lwagenda okwogera. Ojja kwewuunya nti oyinza okubeera awo ng'oba oli mufumbiro ofumba oba okola oba oyoza ngoye ng'omwana ali awo. Ogenda okuwulira ng'omwana ali mu mirembe gye oba anywa amata ng'akkuse bulungi afunye essanyu. Olina okuwulira ng'atandika okumuumuunya akayimba kewawadde owulira mu mmotoka oba kewawuliriza mu mmotoka wiiki ewedde. Naye kati obwongo bwawe bukwata nnyo era butereka mangu nti by'okola ne by'owuliriza ewaka oba bye mwogera era naye byagenda okukwata. Kati eryo ly'essomero erisookera ddala. Kati okusobola okuyamba omwana okwagala okugenda okusoma, kitandikire ewaka wano. Mubeere nga embeera gye muteekawo egenda kumwagazisa okugenda ku ssomero. Waliwo ekibuuzo ekyokubiri kye babuuziza kye sijjukira.
Bw'okizze kibadde nga omwana alina hyperactive disorder, alina ADHD, agamba baba bakola ekintu takiremerako n'amala n'abuuka n'adda ku kirala, eyo nayo mental illness.
Ebbaziro libuddeko sikuwulira bulungi.
Sorry.
Okay. Obadde ogamba ye mwana wa ADHD? Obadde otegeeza?
Nti bw'akola ekintu ate n'amala n'akivaako takiddako. n'osanyuka ate n'akivaako bw'agambye nti nadda ku kirala nti mental illness.
Yes, kati omwana oyo obuzibu bwebeera bwa attention. Naye ate twegendereze, si buli mwana lwava ku kintu n'adda ku kirala nti abeera n'obulwadde bwa ADHD. Kati tutunuulire ne mu myaka gyabwe, kati okuva ku mwaka ogusooka okutuuka ku myaka 4-5
agambye
nga mukulu. Yes, kati omwana abeeramu n'obuzibu bwa attention deficit. Eyo eba esobola okugololwa. Kati oba olina okumumanyiiza okutunuulira ekintu kyakola n'akimaliriza n'alyoka adda ku kirala. Kisinze oba wa myaka emeka? Agambye wa myaka emeka?
Tabuli tawandiise.
Okay, bw'abeera nga ali ku myaka 5 okutuuka ku 10, oyo oba osobola okumuwa conditioning okubeera nti akola homework n'agimala, kagamba n'okolawo kye twandiise si kirungi nnyo, naye ekimu oluusi bakiyita hyper parenting and overscheduling. Kati overscheduling ne hyper parenting ze family zosanganga erina structure. Okomyewo ku ssomero, ensawo teeka wano, kino ky'okola. Omaze okubuuza, omaze funa sinaaka, kino ky'oddako. Structure eyo nnungi, naye kwegamba oluusi ate si nnungi kuyitiriza. Oba weetaaga omwana n'omulekeramu akabanga ke, mwakolera ebibye oba mwafunira essanyu ne banne ne bazannya ebirala. Naye kati omwana atalina attention, kati awo woba omuyambira nti ewaka teekawo structure. Omanye nti bw'akomawo eka kiki kyatandika nakyo, bakola ki. Bw'abanga talina attention ate nga ne wakati wali structure, taata ne maama bakomawo ssaawa 3 za kiro, bavaawo ku makya ssaawa 12, omwana n'abanga alaba mukozi okusinga, taata amulabako ku Sunday, maama amulabako Saturday Sunday. Awo wagenda okuba obuzibu bwa attention nti omwana tagenda kuyambibwa kukula nga asobola okuteeka obudde bwe ku project emu n'agimanyiza n'akwata ekirala. Kati obulwadde buno bujja kukula nga tayambiddwa. Naye bw'oba okyetegerezza omanya nti kati naawe okyusa mu nkola y'emirimu gyo, noba nga abaana obawa obudde buli lunaku, so si Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Naye buli lunaku nobawayo obudde ku makya ate n'olweggulo ng'okomyewo. Ne wakati awo mu lunaku tulina amasimu kati. You check in n'okubayo essimu, omwana okwogera naye obwogezi ku ssimu n'awulira eddoboozi lyo. Nomubuuza olidde otya, olidde ki, mumaze okwebaka, gundi yeebase, akola ki kati. Kati omwana oyo kiba kimuwa okukula nti taata ne maama bangoberera byenkola, banfaako. Kati bino byabeera nga ali hyperactive oba togenda kukiraba nnyo. Ndowooza ntegerekese bulungi.
Yes, sebo. Toyanziza nnyo.
Mr. Musa Gyoli.
Sebo otegerekese bulungi era toyanziza nnyo. Toyanziza nnyo ebigambo ebyo birungi.
Waliwo omulala abuuziza mu message wano ekibuuzo ku ndiisa y'abaana. Ekyo twabadde tukyogeddeko nti emmere omwana gy'alya nayo ebeera nkulu nnyo 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 okuva obuto, nti emmere eyo yeekola obwongo. Kati bwe tuba nga toli Uganda ng'oli mu nsi nga zino, oli mu America oba oli mu UK oba oli mu Australia oba Sweden, bulijjo fuba okulaba nti omwana omuliisa emmere eyo gy'omanyi nti nno naawe gye wakulirako ng'olya ennungi ekola omubiri, vegetables, kagamba n'otogenda nnyo mu fast food world. Fast food world ereeta nnyo 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 obuzibu mu nkula y'abaana. Era ojja kwesanga nti bw'omumanyiza pizza ku myaka 2-3 n'omala okola meal nga tekuliiko pizza, agenda kugaana okulya oba oluusi agibatike mu kamwa abeeraawo ng'akutunuulira. Kubanga ku ssomero babawadde pizza ate n'ewaka omumanyizizza pizza nga tewaliyo kufumba kungi. Kati awo emmere eno mu nkula y'omwana nkulu nnyo nnyo nnyo. Okay, ndowooza byebyo ebibuuzo byefunyeeko kati.
Weebale nnyo ssebo. Omusomesa afaddako ali ready naye katwale ekibuuzo kya Mwami Ratib Sempala then tuwe presenter waffe Ambassador Semuddu. Sebo Mwami Sempala, your question please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salaam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tukuwulira Sebo, yongezaako volume.
Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Nebaza abavisitors baffe abasabikiriza olwaleero Mwami Jude Kafuuma ne Sheikh Musa, alhamdulillah tubeebaza nnyo olw'okutusomesa obulungi. Nsaba Allah abeere ng'atukingiriza effects eziva mu mental illness kubanga kyamaze okulaba abantu abali mu diaspora oba ensi zino ezaakulakana abaana mental illness ebatabanya naye watufe mu Uganda tulina okugezesebwa nnyo ng'ensi ez'awabweru. Naye Sheikh Musa alina akantu ke yakoonyeko akansanusiza n'endagala addemu akakoonyeko. Yagenze n'agamba nti no, everybody is mad but the madness, the degree of madness matters. Nakaluddeko naye nga kali mu scientific way naye badde okusaba oyongereko okayoloboletinga bwebanga nyomba nnyo nange mbeera mulalu oba akafiisizemu watu naye nga kansanusiza nnyo yagambye everybody is mad but the degree of madness differs. Nsaba yongere okukakoonako inshallah.
Weeraliikiridde kugamba nti oli maadi kubanga onyera obusungu bungi Mwami Sempala. Sebo Mwami Senkubuge, are you on? Brother Senkubuge?
Naam, mumpulira.
Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I used that to show you, first I gave you the statistics that for every 4 people in the world, 1 person has a mental illness. So that statement is in essence representing that statistic. Then secondly, we all mad. We talked about, I'll give you an example. We talked about hallucinations. I can guarantee you, every one of you here has hallucinated before. How? I give you an example. Wali otambuddeko ko mu kkubo oba olina woyitaba mu room where waliwo enzikiriza n'otuira, did you call me? N'owulira ng'omuntu akuyita erinnya nga there is nobody there. That is a hallucination.
Kulogootana, Mwami Senkubuge.
Banji?
Kulogootana, what is that?
Anti okulogootana, jjukira nti hallucination ekigambo kulogootana nakyogeddeko ko negamba nti kulogootana is one aspect of hallucinations. Kubanga okulogootana kujja n'ebigambo omuntu n'ayogera si bwe kiri. Naye okulogootana hallucinations zina 5 senses. Kuziri etaano zinakumenyedde audio, visual, okitegeera. Naye nga ffenna we all have hallucinated. Kati kyengezaako kugamba nti the madness varies. Kyentegeeza kiri nti abantu abamu kiri temporary n'ologootana ne kiggwako. Yinza okuba nga ologootanye kubanga olina infection. Okitegeera. Abalala kibeera nga kya period of time. Kati abamu muffe beetaaga ddagala, abalala tebeetaaga ddagala. Abamu yeetaaga therapy nga ba psychology, aba omulala talina kye yeetaaga. Omulala can deal with it by speaking to. So it's the degree of madness. We all mad somehow. Abamu of madness eri temporary. Nga wongambye okunyiiga. Now, singa oli mu abo abanyiiga lubeerera nga gwe wenyiiza you irritable. There is a problem. You need to get help. Kyekyo kiri mu kubusabusa. Naye bwe kitanga onyiize lwa ssaawa eyo kintu kibaddewo whatever n'onyiiga n'okita. Naye bw'obanga gwe all the time you are irritable. Irritability is a condition of mental illness. Kasitebeera ng'eri over a period of time. And in which case, get help. Because if you don't get help, other things also come in and walk in and walk in and walk in. And then the problem becomes bigger and bigger. That's what I meant by we are all mad. It's the degree of madness that varies. Some need help, some don't. Some can deal with it with friends, some need professional help. That's what I meant.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, brother.
Ekibuuzo kya Latibu nadde ngenda kibuuza naye nange mbadde mbuuza nti entondo ennyingi omuntu wayitiriza entondo ennyingi ebeera mental illness kubanga oba okirako wa busungu naye wentondo tabeereka naye ebeera mental illness.
Kagamba nga entondo si busungu nga buli kamu konna kamunyiiza nga kamumakinga feeling
tasobola na kubeera mu bantu kubanga alina entondo buli muntu yenna amupiikingako buli kwamba buli nekoyogera konna kugamba afuna entondo mu buli
oli ne bw'aseka asekerera gwe, oli ne bw'ayogera era boogera ku nze era mulaka atunuulira nze. You have a problem, you need to get, because as I say to you, any problem lw'ogiraba early enough, you get a chance to solve the problem. If you don't deal with then you know there's something else that is gonna walk in. So just get help. Like I say to you, by help, it could be speaking to a member of your family. It could be getting a therapist. You don't need to have medication. Medication is the kind of end result of what we do. But we try to avoid giving people medication because medication actually, for mental illness, as I said, you remember I said to you, look after two things, the back and the brain. With the brain, if we start giving you medication, it's gonna be long lasting. You're not gonna come off it. Unfortunately, what happens to some people, kasta afuna problem obaina ali schizophrenic and whatever, na mira dagala omwezi gumu na uli ambunterede nga stopping. No, you're forgetting that it's the medication that has stabilized you. Fena, I'll tell you people how medication works. We all have a line like this in our brains. Now, this line, think of it as a straight line. Of course, it's not straight, but think of it as a straight line. Now, the reason you get medication is for someone who is depressed, has a problem with depression, means they've gone under the line. Someone who is manic is gone over the line or whatever it is. Now, when we give you medication, we give you medication to stabilize. So you walk within that line, so you're not shooting up and you're not too down. So when we give you medication, you have to keep taking the medication. Don't stop. And don't stop, never stop any antipsychotic medication without proper medical help, because some medication is really bad. And you get a heart attack and you die. You need to go in a very organized way. So that's what I meant generally by we all mad. It's the degree of madness that varies.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Twebaza presenters baffe mwebale nnyo. Simanyi oba mumpulira, it's a bit windy. Anange, just mbadde nja some information on oba some light on nti omuntu omukopi bw'alina mental health illness. How is that connected with the brain or psychologically?
Sister Naima, what's your definition of mukopi?
Nange nti omuntu kale yemma n'okwemba kwegamba gwe. Not only you can't give out, but when even the basic things in life, the way when that's the true description of obukopi.
Mr. Naima, obukopi tebukoma ku ssente zokka. Obukopi buli mu mpisa, buli mu conduct y'omuntu, buli mu character y'omuntu. Then n'olyoka ogenda mu ssente. Omuntu abeera mukopi mu mpisa abakopi. Yeah, so it's mental.
Thank you. Katweke bademu ekibuuzo kino, then Ambassador Semuddu atandike his next presentation, please. Mwami Kafuuma, Mwami Senkubuge, simanyi agenda kuddamu ekibuuzo ky'obukopi.
Obukopi, I don't know. One thing, let's not fall into a trap where we're gonna put everything in terms of mental illness. That's one. And then two, obukopi oba abamanyi Quran waliwo Allah wagamba man yabkhal fa innama yabkhalu an nafsi, oba bwe obukopi bwentegedde obwo. Waliwo obukopi oba omukono gamwe bamuyita nga you can't even give yourself, you can't give out. I don't think it's a mental illness, but it's a problem that you are doing injustice to yourself. That is the only thing I can say about it. But I don't think we're gonna have to put every negative aspect of human behavior as a mental illness. It does not work like that. Omuntu ayinza okubeera nga mukopi bukopi, but that's his character.
Okay.
Hajjati Hasfa mbuzeeyo ekibuuzo.
Nedda Hajjati, mbadde mumusonyiwe, Dr. Semuddu waali, you know, ayina network issues. Ate tubadde tusaba questions tuzigende tumalirize Dr. Semuddu, Ambassador Semuddu, sorry, amalirize presentation ye because the network ye Uganda and curfew. Then abayina ebibuuzo tubasaba mu beholding. Simanyi oba the two presenters, Mwami Kafuuma, in case we need you, and Mwami Senkubuge tusobola bakonako, please ne tusaba mutuikirize